Okay, we will call this special council meeting to order for June the 6th. It's 3 o'clock, so welcome everyone. And we'll start with a land acknowledgement. The town of Innisfail would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Indigenous peoples of the Treaty 7 region and Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. We respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our community. And I would also like to acknowledge that June is National Indigenous History Month that was formally declared in 2009. So it's a month that encourages all of us to learn more about the history of the Indigenous peoples of Canada. And we'll move on to 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions, CEO Becker?
Just a slight change, your worship, or I know, sorry.
That's okay, I'll forgive you.
Mayor Barkley. Just on closing camera item 12.1 Southwest Residential Inquiry. It's like to gear towards more Southwest Industrial update.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I'll make
Councillor
that
Hystad.
motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hystad. All in favor? Perfect. We will move into 3.1 Community Futures. I'll welcome Carrie Kirluck, General Manager of Community Futures. Is there an introduction, CEO Becker? Or...
I was just going to prepare myself, Mayor Barkley, to just introduce Kelly Kirlick, who's the General Manager of Community Futures Central Alberta office. Administration had the opportunity to meet Kelly and colleague. I can't remember your colleague's name offhand, but really good at meeting. We know what Community Futures does for Alberta, Central Alberta, and Kelly had desire to come and introduce herself to council and go through some of the important work that Community Futures is working on.
Thanks, Todd. Thank you, Your Worship. I have my presentation up. It's really nice to see everybody in person. I'd like to thank Todd and Megan and the team from the town who took the opportunity to speak to myself and my team a few months ago, and grateful for the opportunity to sit with you and tell you a little bit about what we do in Central Alberta and how we can help you in the town and assist your businesses. I am Kelly Kirlick. I'm the General Manager of Community Futures Central Alberta. I've been with the organization since 2009, and I stepped into the General Manager role in 2018. Just make sure I'm doing this correctly. About Community Futures. Community Futures is a federally funded program, and there are 269 offices across Canada. There's 27 in Alberta, and we operate within regional boundaries. The purpose of the program when it was established in the 80s was economic development and support for small businesses. So we offer three unique pillars of economic development. The first one being small business loans. We are a business resource and support for entrepreneurs. So we offer various programs, training, workshops, mentorship, and coaching to entrepreneurs who are either at the phase of startup if they have an idea, or if they are looking to expand or relocate. The third pillar that of our operations is economic development projects through partnerships and funded programs. So we have various partners within our region and support organizations that we work with to support entrepreneurs and economic development initiatives. The Community Futures Central Alberta office has been operating in out of Red Deer for almost 30 years. Again, we're federally funded. The funding arm that supports us is one of, I think, 6 or 7 rural development agencies of the Government of Canada. In Western Canada, our funder was, up until a year ago, was Western Economic Development Canada. And that RDA, or development agency, funded the 4 Western provinces, BC through Manitoba. With a recent reorganization, they've rebranded, and we are funded through Prairie's Economic Development Canada. So in our office, we have, says 5 full-time equivalent. We actually have 6 full-time and 1 part-time staff, and we're guided by a board of directors. And I'll speak a little bit later about our mix of elected officials, municipally elected officials, and members at large. Again, there are 27 offices in Central Alberta. And I'm just going to scroll to our next slide here, which is the map and the region that we cover. So geographically, as well as population wise, we're one of the larger Community Futures offices in Alberta. So we cover essentially west of the Highway 2 corridor, with the exception of Pine Lake, all the way west to the First Nations, past Nordegg, First Nations of Ochis and Sunchild, south to Carstairs Water Valley. So we have quite a substantial area that we serve, including the town of Innisfail. So I spoke a little bit about the 3 pillars of economic development that we offer. The first one that I'll speak to is our small business loans. So we offer business loans up to $150,000 for SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises. Our wheelhouse is essentially startup businesses, but we also offer expansion loans, franchise loans. We offer various programs for entrepreneurs really at any stage. We aren't in competition with banks, but we offer support to those entrepreneurs or those businesses that don't qualify, or they may not fit within the box of a traditional lender. Our main source of referrals and our main source of partnerships in the lending realm is through banks. So we partner with banks when perhaps there isn't their criteria doesn't fit the capital requirement of the business. So we can come in behind the bank and we can offer working capital loans or loans where the banks can't serve. So our terms are short, typically 1 to 5 years. We give the businesses that leg up so that they can be bankable down the road, because that partnership with the bank is very important to the small business in terms of bank accounts and credit cards and lines of credit. And we just give them that leg up. We have very flexible terms, very flexible criteria. And we have no penalties for any business that becomes bankable before the term is due with our clients. We've offered some unique lending programs in the past and currently. Not sure if any of you have heard of COVID-19, but that was a huge initiative that we were a part of in terms of economic development and recovery for businesses impacted by COVID-19. The Regional Relief and Recovery Program, or the RRF program as we call it, was announced by the federal government in April of 2020. After the beginning of the pandemic, when the banks were offered the CEBA loans, the Canada Emergency Bank Accounts. So those were the $20,000 to $60,000 loans with the forgivable portion. It was very early. It was determined very early on that a lot of the businesses didn't qualify and they were falling through the cracks with the CEBA loans. And so the Regional Relief and Recovery Program was established to fit the niche of those mom and pop businesses and the sole proprietors and the more rural-based businesses that weren't qualifying for the CEBA loans. So we were very busy over the last 2 years administering that program. There's a new initiative announced recently by the provincial government, and it is not quite ready to launch. We'll be launching it within the next week to 2 weeks. And it is funded by the Alberta government, and it's through the Alberta Women's Economic Recovery Program. The initiative is called the Capital Growth Initiative. And it was announced that $6 million would be funded by the provincial government, $3 million to the Community Futures Program in Alberta, and $3 million to Alberta Women's Entrepreneurs. So the Alberta Women's Entrepreneurs loan looks just like ours. However, it is for the rural-based businesses in Edmonton and Calgary. As far as the Community Futures Program goes, rural businesses are considered any municipality or community outside of Edmonton or Calgary. So Red Deer is considered rural as well. So this program is administered in rural Alberta through the Community Futures Program. So those loans are between $10,000 and $75,000 for women-led businesses, so over 50% ownership, flexible repayments, and a 25% forgivable portion as well. So we are just accepting inquiries, and we're taking applications, and we're just in the process of signing contracts for that program, and we'll be ready to roll it out soon. I have some information here available, and you can find it on our website as well. We also offer youth entrepreneur loans, and that's a core part of what we do. The Government of Canada's priorities are youth, disabilities, Indigenous, women, and cluster development businesses. So any value-added ag, manufacturing, tourism, technology, those are the initiatives that we support through our lending programs and our entrepreneur programs. So our youth loans and our entrepreneurs with disabilities loans offer more flexible criteria to help those entrepreneurs who are facing more barriers in their startups and their operations. In 2021, 2022, at our fiscal year ending March 31st, through that fiscal year, we advanced just over $1.6 million in loans to 50 businesses. Through those loans, we created, maintained, or expanded through those lending services 143 jobs. And throughout our fiscal year, we also, through our training programs, advisory services, and some of our specially funded programs, we offered advice to just over 1,000 entrepreneurs and individuals. Loans by municipalities in our last fiscal year, I've broken it down. You can see in the pie chart, those are the communities that we led to in the last fiscal year. And our COVID relief loan is also broken down. So we did have quite a bit of uptake in the town of Innisfail with our RRF loans as well. And hopefully we were able to help some of those businesses keep their doors open and their lights on. With the, I just wanted to back up and indicate through the Capital Growth Initiative, the Alberta funded women's loans, there will be wraparound services for those entrepreneurs as well. So we will be able to offer them more advisory services and sort of take care of them through their process of their startup or their expansion. The second hat through our lending and secondary to our lending is our programs and services through some of our partnerships and programs and projects that we get special funding for. I'll just go through some of the programs that we are currently running. One of them is the Smart Start program. The Smart Start program is a cohort-based 8-month entrepreneur business incubator, basically. And we offer, there's 3 components to the Smart Start program. The first one is an online learning curriculum. And it's a well-established learning curriculum from a company out of Calgary called Go Forth Institute. And essentially it's got really great modules and training and online learning components to it. The second feature of our Smart Start program is in-person workshops. So we offer 10 to 12 workshops over a 10-month period where we cover everything from marketing to insurance to taxation, all aspects of owning and operating a business. And the third component of it is mentorship. So a lot of new entrepreneurs find that it's a lonely road, and they feel that their problems are unique. And the mentorship allows them to be connected with somebody who's been down that road and is an experienced entrepreneur. They don't have to be in the same industry, but it gives them that support, business community building, and that network of resources. The Entrepreneurs with Disabilities program is a program where we offer any entrepreneur with a self-disclosed disability or health condition extra coaching and support so that they can overcome any barriers that they have to entrepreneurship as well. And that's a program that our office has won several ongoing awards on an annual basis. We have some great coaches in our region that really support entrepreneurs who need help overcoming those barriers. The Digital Service Squad program was launched in April of this year, and that is funded by the Alberta government through the Business Link. And Business Link is one of our most active partners that we deal with. They're out of Edmonton, and they are also an entrepreneur resource. So we do there's a lot of training and activities that we do that aligns with the Business Link, and we also partner with them. So this program, and Her Worship contacted me a couple months ago, and we discussed this program a little bit as we were ready to launch. It offers small businesses digital services and digital marketing assistance. So anything from Google My Business, creating a digital strategy for businesses, advertising, social media, SEO, enhancement, visual content, and website learning. So we offer 5 to 15 hours of free service to businesses who are looking to enhance their digital presence. Yeah, we work one-on-one with those clients. So you can find more information on our website on that as well. And we've served, I think, 45 clients since April and offered those services. So it's been a popular program for us, and we have funding for that until March 31st of 2023. The Mascasieu Women in Business Startup Program was established in 2018 through the Women Entrepreneur Strategy through the federal government. In 2018, the federal government announced the strategy, and it was a $6 billion project across Canada that is aimed to increase, well, their strategy is to double the number of women entrepreneurs in Canada by 2025. And I'm sure that timeline has changed with COVID. So I'm sure they've extended that. But we received out of our office funding to facilitate and offer a program to Indigenous women. And it is, I think we're in our 4th cohort since 2019 when we launched. We have 9-week cohorts offered in Rocky Mountain House in Red Deer for Indigenous women who want to start or grow their business. The Rotary Alberta Youth Entrepreneur Camp has been operating for about 30 years, and that is an entrepreneurship camp that we offer to youth between 13 and 15 years old. And it is a week-long camp that Community Future sponsors in partnership with the Rotaries, Alberta Rotary Clubs. And it is a week-long camp in Cypress Hills where they learn about entrepreneurships, they write a business plan, and they wrap up the camp day with an entrepreneur day, and they sell their products. So we usually have waiting lists for our youth in our region who like to go to camp as well. Some other previous initiatives that we've done recently are business succession planning and matching for businesses looking to create a succession plan and exit their business, and a matching program to match those businesses looking to sell with potential buyers. That program wrapped up in March of 2022. The Regional Resilience Initiative, we partnered with about 6 other organizations in Central Alberta to offer support during COVID, the beginning of the pandemic, just to offer resources and information, because there was a lot of confusion for businesses during shutdowns and where they could get some support and some help. The Catalyst Incubator was a program that we were funded through the Central Alberta Regional Innovation Network, and that was a cohort-based program that assisted businesses in value-added ag and manufacturing. So we have a lot of ongoing projects and programs that we offer on an ongoing basis. Next slide. Some of our community partners I've listed here. The Central Alberta Regional Innovation Network, which I just spoke about, that is funded through Alberta Innovates through the Government of Alberta. Business Link is a major partner of ours as well. We partner with municipalities on many different initiatives. Central Alberta Economic Partnership. I think the town of Innisfail is a member. So we actually share an office with CAPE, and we work with them quite closely. Economic development committees and EDOs, we work closely with Government of Alberta. Red Deer Polytechnic and Olds College, we sit at the table with them quite a bit and offer various programs through them. Banks and financial institutions, again, are one of our main partners through our lending. Chambers of Commerce, Rotary Clubs, and of course, Prairie's Economic Development Canada, who is our funder. On our board, we currently have 8 members. Our bylaws allow us to have members at large as well as municipally appointed. board members, and currently we have a mix of 50-50. We have 4 municipally appointed directors and 4 members at large representing Clearwater County, Sylvan Lake, Rocky Mountain House, Penhold, Red Deer, Didsbury, and Jarvis Bay, which I believe is the county of Lacombe. The role of the board is to establish our organization's priorities, monitor our performance, and to be accountable to our stakeholders and funders. We have a really active, very engaged board. Our terms are maxed out at 9 years, and typically we've had many board members who step back for a year and then want to rejoin our board. So we have great symposiums, great. We were just in Ottawa and spoke to a delegation of MPs, and it was a fantastic event with over 600 people in Ottawa. So we are constantly trying to recruit new board members and looking for lots of diverse knowledge and support and expertise sitting at our board table. Our ideal number would be 9 board members. So we really want some representation from the southern part of our region. And if you have any questions or any interest to step forward and sit on our board, you can contact our chair, Russell Crook. I left his email up there, or myself if you have any questions or would like some more information about Community Futures and how you can assist our organization. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm sure there's likely a few questions, so I'll open it up to council. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and thank you, Kelly, for the presentation. It was very good and very informative. I just have a couple of questions. One's been answered. How do we get, as Innisfail, representation on your board? You've answered that. It's a contact either to yourself or Mr. Cook. The other question is, do you reach out to businesses, or is it sort of up to the businesses to reach out to you and make that initial contact? Can you maybe just explain the process?
Yeah, there's many ways that we let our communities know that we're here to help them. We speak to chambers, we speak to councils and opportunities like this. We work closely with economic development officers and economic development committees. So typically they're the first line in the communities where the businesses reside. And usually it's on a referral basis. We have a lot of marketing initiatives and campaigns that are out there and advertisement. So sometimes they're provincially funded by the Community Futures Alberta program, and sometimes we have our own marketing campaigns internally. Word of mouth. Through the business link, we have a lot of referral partnerships that let clients know. We're typically usually the hub. Once a client knows they don't know where to begin, they have a business idea, we're typically the hub and the first point of contact outside of the EDOs or outside of some of our partners. Sometimes we can't help the client, but we have a large network and resource that we can refer our clients to. So it's basically referrals through banks, through the EDOs, and through our marketing initiatives.
Okay, thank you.
So Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you have some measures of success that you can share, like percentages or like of loans and entrepreneurs or just numbers.
Well, statistically, in Canada, startup businesses have about a 50% failure rate. Through our program, through our lending programs, or some of our support programs and advisory services, the success rate jumps from 50% up to over 70% through our program. So it's a proven model. And I mean, that's why we've been around for 40 years. It is a proven model to give those businesses that network of support and resources and training and knowledge to plan their startups and plan their success.
Thank you. And what about entrepreneurs? Is there a measure there as well? Or?
For entrepreneur knowledge, so not so much that, it's more in terms of impact in business success. We look at when we help an entrepreneur and we offer them resources through some of our incubator programs or through our one-on-one advisory services or assistance with business planning. Sometimes a business plan is also a feasibility plan for the entrepreneur. And if they determine through that process that they're not ready to start their business, we consider that a success as well, because that has given them the tools and the knowledge and the entrepreneur I guess, knowledge base and the tools to maybe determine that this isn't for them, that entrepreneurship isn't for them.
Thank you.
We do have some success stories on our website. So if you look at our website, which I have listed, there we do have ongoing and rotating success stories. And we like to spotlight small businesses on our social media as well to offer them some of that support and give them some exposure.
Councilor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Great presentation. Thank you. I was wondering how well subscribed are the programs that you've got and how many do you have to turn down, I guess?
The Smart Start program, we're just in our first year. We went very quickly from an in-person program to a virtual program because we had to in September of 2020. We were forced to make the program virtual. And then throughout the cohort, we've kind of made it a hybrid model. We found that hybrid kind of works very well for us to offer some workshops virtually, as well as have that in-person network building and community building opportunities, sort of the peer-to-peer network for the clients. We had eight entrepreneurs in the Smart Start program. Being our first year and through COVID, it wasn't our target number, but we're looking to really expand that. The incubator program that we ran this past year through the Central Alberta Regional Innovation Network, we offered 143 hours to 20 clients through that program. Our advisory services, I think I had that number. We contacted and offered training and support to over 1,000 clients in the last fiscal year. And we currently have 195 loans on our portfolio right now. So it's a pretty robust program for 5 full-time employees. So yeah, we offer lots of support. Yeah.
Councillor Hystad.
Thanks. Your area is huge.
Mhm.
It's very huge. Thanks for the information today. Is there anything that we can do as a council or a community to help build some more capacity? And rather than it's just, this conversation, then we kind of go away and we go 100 miles an hour
Mhm.
down the road and we
Mhm.
forget about you for
Right.
a year or two or whatever.
Yeah.
That was my first one. The second one, it's great to see that 11 businesses were helped out during
Mhm.
COVID. I think that's important
Mhm.
to highlight. So
Mhm.
that's my question. Like
Yeah, I mean,
space, digital stuff like that.
I think that we could have more engagement from our end as well in the town of Innisfail. And so talking to the opportunities to speak to chambers of commerce, the opportunities to speak to the banks here in town, the opportunities to sort of be at the events and the trade shows and the things that you have in your community. It's a lot of just promoting who we are and what it is that we do when you're talking to startup businesses or you're talking to anybody in your community who is a business owner. And if they need that support, it's just knowing who we are. We like to talk to people like Todd and to EDOs within the communities on an ongoing basis. We like to talk to councils in our region. I haven't been to the town of Innisfail since I was a manager 4 years ago. There was those 2 years where we didn't have that opportunity, but for me to come and speak to you is a great opportunity to be on the sort of the forefront. In terms of increasing our capacity and what the town of Innisfail can do to help our capacity is partnerships and working together to assist businesses. Through the Digital Service Squad program, we have increased our staff capacity. So we are doing walkabouts. So to partner with somebody within the town or within the chamber to knock on doors of businesses and say, here we are, we're here. We would love to help you. And we have these programs that can help you. So yeah, I get it's just knowing who we are and talking about us.
thanks. I think this is the right council to help work with
I've
you.
heard.
And
That's what Todd
thanks,
said.
and thanks to our administration.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Kelly, my question, I guess, around youth entrepreneur, your program, what ages are that?
Through the Community Futures program, youth are anyone, any entrepreneur between the age of 18 and 29. 29.
Okay.
The Futurepreneur program is funded by the federal government, and it's in partnership with the Business Development Bank of Canada. Their youth loan program is up to 39. So it depends on the program. But we also refer to the BDC and the Futurepreneur program as well. So the criteria for that lending program is a little more flexible for those entrepreneurs, and our collateral requirements are maybe not as stringent as regular.
And I realize you're probably somewhat constrained with your capacity, but do you ever come into communities, and would you ever do any kind of I guess, presentation or some mentorship to youth, like even younger than 18, to talk to them about business and how to be an entrepreneur? And
Absolutely. We have any speaking engagement or any opportunity where we can be in front of groups like that.
Okay.
We definitely are open to that, and we definitely seek those opportunities. We partner with Junior Achievement. And that's through the Chambers of Commerce as well. So the Southern Alberta Junior Achievement, we work with those groups. So there's different programs through Junior Achievement, through elementary schools, junior high. We work mostly with the junior high school kids, and we do have, it's a really good curriculum that Junior Achievement has created, and we facilitate and talk to those youth. So if there is opportunities that any of you hear about that we can speak to any group, any entrepreneur group, we would love to.
okay, stay tuned. No, just kidding.
We've spoken to high schools as well. Some high schools through their curriculums will have us come in and speak to classrooms.
Okay, and have you had any uptake in Innisfail on the digital
Service Squad.
Service
I don't
Squad.
have those stats. I would be happy
Okay.
to forward them to you. We've had some challenges with recruitment for the Digital Service Squad
Okay.
team because we receive funding to hire 3 full-time equivalent. And they are youth. One of the mandates of that program is that we hire youth for our squad to deliver the services. And so there's a lot of onboarding with those youths. We had one recent university grad who was probably our strongest squad member, and he left us to for greener pastures, I guess, for a permanent position with a marketing firm. So we were really, he was fantastic, and we were sorry to see him go. So we're also still recruiting for that program. I would love to come to Innisfail and talk to some of the businesses and just determine who your priorities are, and the ones that we can reach out to first. But I can get those stats to you.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been doing business visits, and so this is a conversation we could certainly deliver to the right business, the right fit. And my last question is around, I'll call it RAYAC, I guess, the
Yes.
Rotary Alberta.
Mhm.
So I know our Rotary Club here, we do RILA and Ripen camps, but we don't believe we've ever done a RAYAC camp. So be very interested in getting more information about that and passing it on.
Absolutely. Kelsey Krieger is she sits on the committee
Okay.
for our camp. And the deadline is passed for this August. I think we have 8 applications, and we sponsor 5 campers. But throughout the rest of the Community Futures offices, typically we can assign funds from other CF offices to accommodate all of our applications. But I can get that information to you. And Kelsey speaks to Rotary clubs, and she can
Perfect.
speak to your groups as well about camping.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Councillor Wing?
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Yes, it's always good to hear about Community Futures in Central Alberta. You've done a great job. I sit as the council's representative on the Innisfail Chamber of Commerce. So we actually have a meeting this week, but do you have a card?
I do.
Okay,
Yes.
before you leave, if you could just throw me 2 cards, I
Absolutely.
will share them and see if we can get something started at that level as well.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, well, thank you so much for coming. It's great meeting you finally, and thanks for all you do. And I'm sure that we will grow this relationship.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you again. I appreciate it. And thanks for all the great questions.
Okay, thanks again, Kelly, and chat soon. So we'll move into 3.2 social procurement, and Director Vickers will introduce our next speaker.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So recently you may have heard CAO Becker talking about a social procurement, I guess, course that him and myself have taken. Through that learning, we did meet Sarah Espinal. She was one of the consultants that worked on that training session that we took, that we found great value in. And we did ask her to come in and do some sessions for us, one with our staff that was earlier this afternoon, and one with town council yourself. So here's Sarah, and hopefully this will take a little while and ask lots of questions. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Sarah.
Sarah mentioned that Erica came atop the class. Wait, no, I'm making that up actually.
It's coming. I hope. There we go. So good afternoon, Mayor Barkley and members of council and administration. I'm Sarah Aspinall, as Ms. Vickers introduced. I'm part of BGSD Consulting Corporation that basically focuses on government procurement and looking towards raising the bar on sustainable and social procurement. So as mentioned, I was the co-designer and developer and the trainer on the social procurement certificate course that Mr. Becker and Ms. Vickers took earlier this year. And we've actually delivered that to over 180 people so far. We've been delivering that course in September of 2021. And we've had a variety of government procurement professionals on there, plus also private interest from contractors, construction folks, architects, engineers, and such on the course as well, all interested in finding out how to start their journey on social procurement. My background, though, is predominantly supply chain, about 25 years in supply chain, 17 years actually in the rail industry, really a lot of the time at the coalface of operations of transit systems. So I appreciate delivering service like you do at the town level. But my last position was Director of Supply Management at the City of Calgary, where I spent 7 years there managing their procurement, warehousing operations. And then a year ago, I decided to venture out on my own and become an independent consultant in this area. So that's a little bit about me, but I'm going to jump into social procurement and the presentation today. Okay, so do we know around the horseshoe anything about social procurement? Just so I know where kind of the level to go here. We're good to get into the full week. Okay, perfect. Okay, so social procurement. So this is when we look at procurement and we look at it in a way that starts to think about not only an economic or a financial transaction around procurement, but we also look at it from an environmental and a social perspective as well. And we look to introduce those thoughts into our decision-making process when determining how we're going to buy the things that we need to buy to run a town. Basically, with social procurement, we're looking at broadening the definition of best value for money. So traditionally, we think about price, we think about quality, we think about delivery, And we want to make sure that we've got somebody that is capable of actually delivering the goods and services. But what we do with social procurement is we dig a little bit deeper, and we want to understand who those businesses are. Who owns those businesses? What business practices that they have? Do they have a diverse employee base? Do they have a diverse supply chain? Do they offer job opportunities and employment opportunities within them? So what we're actually trying to do with social procurement is lift the lid and actually expose who we're doing business with and make determination on, when we're making those procurement decisions, that perhaps we value that and we value those elements, not on its own, but in combination with price, with delivery, with availability, and with the quality as well. And social procurement really is about using it as a strategic lever within your community to get added value, to get social value, and build a healthy community, a community that there is equality and there's prosperity opportunities for all, and not just the traditional channels that we've seen in the past. So social procurement really is about seeking that best value, but it talks about value in a broader sense than what we've necessarily applied in the past. So social procurement can go through a couple of different pathways, and we're going to get into the pathways in a moment. But one of the things is really about intentionally leveraging the spend that you have here as a town. And if we think about Canada as a whole spends $200 billion a year within, to run the government, to buy the things that we need to buy, to run the facilities that provide the services. So we have the opportunity, if we apply social procurement, to leverage that $200 billion to do more with it than just get the good or the service that we actually want to provide the services to our citizens. So I think in the conversation earlier today, Ms. Vickers was explaining to me how much you spend here. And your budget is significant within this town, and the people that rely on that and the suppliers that supply it. And so what we're speaking about today is looking at that spend that you have in procurement and raising the bar and asking our suppliers to perhaps show us how they add community benefit by us investing in them when we give them the contracts. Okay, so really this is about our consulting dollars, the construction dollars, the dollars that we spend on goods and services. This could be fleet, it could be roads, like any of the things, and looking at saying, let's leverage that money to do more than just get what we intend to get through the scope of the project. Okay. So the diagram here is a diagram that was developed by Social Canada, who I do a lot of work with, and co-developed the training course together. And the diagram really presents traditional procurement. So this is where we have two players really participating in a procurement transaction. So we have the purchaser. So this is yourselves, the town, and you're buying things that you need to deliver your services. So that creates value for you because you can actually deliver the service. And then we have a supplier, and a supplier has value in the process. They have a dollar value on that transaction. And they're basically coming to you and saying, I'm going to be competitive. I have a cost base. I also want to make some profit because I've also got to prosper. So there's value there for the supplier to participate. And the two together creates an economic value. So that's traditional procurement without thinking about the other elements that could become part of this equation. So let's look at when we add social procurement into that equation. So what we're not doing is replacing any of that value. The purchaser still wants value. The supplier still needs to create profit and stay in business and provide the goods and services that they provide. But what we're saying with social procurement is if we add social value into the equation, if we create more value, then the transaction moves from just being a financial transaction between two parties to now having three parties, and it creates community value as well. But we need to determine what that community value is and what is important specifically to the area in which you're working. And that can be actually quite different dependent on the current economic environment, social environment in which you work. So for example, you know, down in Calgary, where I was involved in implementing social procurement, we looked at that social value around socioeconomic resiliency, because lots of small businesses were going out of business. They were really struggling to stay afloat. And we said, let's look at perhaps supporting our local community and local business by leveraging our procurement. And we looked at it and we said, let's see if we set a direction of perhaps not preferring local, but at the area that we can have influence, let's buy local. So if you're buying books for a training course, buy from the local bookstore instead of buying online from a big online retailer, for example. If you're catering for lunch or need guard services, look to see who's available locally. Let's generate some community value from that decision-making process. So this is really looking at what's unique to you, and it might be job opportunities. It might be something to do with youth employment, or, you know, zero experience entry jobs and things like that, that you're actually looking to create some pull into certain industries. So you set that yourselves as council, as strategic priorities and direction that you want to set that works for your community. So what worked in, say, Calgary, or what worked in Edmonton, or works out in BC may not necessarily be what you want to do from a social value creation perspective. And that is certainly the work that needs to be done from your perspective if you decide to embark on a social procurement journey. So what are the community benefits and outcomes that you can, you know, set about achieving by going towards social procurement? So like I mentioned, socioeconomic resiliency, creating that opportunity and more prosperity and sharing of those contract dollars that are spent in the community with small, medium-sized or social enterprises, for example. It could be employment opportunities. So this could be you downloading your requirements and what you want to do through your general contractors, through your suppliers, to say, we would like you to do certain things with regards to apprenticeships or career track, things like that. Or it could also just be, tell us what you're doing today, because a lot of people are already doing this work. We just have never asked the question, we've never collected the data, and we've never told the story. So it's also important to remember that you're probably not even starting from ground zero here. There's probably a lot of good things that you're already doing. We certainly heard that from the conversation this afternoon with administration. So career development and progression as well, you know, really creating those entry-level positions and getting people in and from university and into work, and attracting them into the sectors that are important to the town of Innisfail. When we look at poverty reduction, Edmonton, and the city of Edmonton's work was certainly around poverty reduction. And you'll see when we look at their program in detail, that a lot of the things that they looked towards was actually to try and get some work and some kind of lifting people out of poverty through job opportunities with the procurements that they were doing from a city perspective. Diversity and inclusion, so this could be within the employment of the people that you use from a supplier perspective, but it can also be diversity of suppliers as well. Thinking about women-owned businesses or new Canadians, BIPOC and Indigenous business. So this is about really looking at this is about bringing some more spread of prosperity across a more diverse group of suppliers. The last two are interesting on the community benefits and outcomes, and these kind of look at it from a different perspective. So when your suppliers or yourselves as a town look at staff retention, having more socially minded programs, having, you know, that feeling of job satisfaction when you've actually seen a contract put in place some employment opportunities for somebody that maybe wouldn't have got that in any other way. So it goes from being a transactional process of procurement to actually bringing greater value to those people that are employed doing those jobs. And also from a contractor perspective, what we're actually seeing is contractors want to position themselves to have a competitive edge. And a lot of them are actually speaking about their policies and their performance around employment and career opportunities and diversity, and actually bringing that forward and actually winning contracts on that basis from buyers like yourselves who are deciding to leverage the dollars that you have to do more community benefit as well. So this is a section of the conversation. If you're willing to do this, is a bit of a discussion about myth busting. So this is why I wanted to kind of signal if anybody knew about social procurement at the beginning. But I'm interested to perhaps have a conversation about what you've heard about social procurement, and that could be negative or positive, and what you've heard, and maybe if we can perhaps myself and a couple of the administrative colleagues here could perhaps respond.
Anybody have any thoughts, questions? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I'll be completely honest. I know nothing about social procurement, and it goes, you know, I come out of an RFP process, and basically we were looking at price. And, you know, and from what I see here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, how do we structure our RFPs to include all of that? So maybe that's a question for down the road. So, but I know nothing about it, so I'm here to learn from
Sure.
you and our two fellows. So
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. And I can certainly answer that question if that's okay. There's a variety of different ways to structure it. Both of the colleagues here went on a 4-week course and learned a variety of different practices and pathways in which we can apply. But basically what you're doing is you're looking at your evaluation criteria. So what you would do is you would assign a certain amount of percentage points to price, certain amounts to experience, certain amounts to quality and availability. And then at the end of the equation, or the start, wherever you want to put it into the equation, you actually add some points in for social value creation. And that is how you basically speak about the outcomes that you want to achieve. And then you have your suppliers demonstrate how they can add that value. And that could be on current practice, or it could be on contractual performance whilst they're delivering that. So basically it's part of the evaluation criteria and is one factor that then helps to basically document, you know, who is the highest rated proponent and the combination of all of those things for who then will be awarded the contract.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So one of the big questions, and I maybe just handle this here because there isn't another point that I'm going to cover, is the trade agreements. And this sometimes is the stumbling block, particularly for public procurement, because we have to work in a fairly controlled environment when it comes to how we spend public dollars. We have to be open, we have to be fair, we have to be transparent, and we have to achieve best value. And that's the foundation of trade agreements and how all of the public dollars are spent when they enter that trade agreement territory of dollar value. So what we speak about for social procurement is that we work with the trade agreements. We find a way to use the trade agreements to implement social procurement. So this is not something that we want you certainly to take a risk on at all with your procurement process because of the rigor and the integrity that needs to be highly maintained in a public procurement process. So I'll go through in a couple of slides how we make sure that it is compliant to trade agreements so that, you know, you're managing the risks of your process yourselves and working with the trade agreements. So I've seen that as being certainly a question and a concern that's come from public procurement. And that's something certainly that Ms. Vickers will certainly have to manage as you decide on your path of social procurement.
Sarah, can you speak a little bit to, you know, the best value? That term has always kind of caught me in a good way. And I guess around local procurement. So I think this is why I've been attracted to this as I look at Innisfail, a smaller community. We have businesses here, they don't have the capacity to maybe take on a large project, but they certainly have capacity to take on bits of that project. So unbundling the RFPs or and the value that stays in the community. So when you talk about, you know, that initial price, and that's what we always focus on, and we forget the other 10 steps along the way and the benefits that stay in this community when we purchase local. And, you know, just a shift in 20% of our spending can make a huge difference, right, into this small business hiring more people and staying in business and staying afloat. And
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when we get into trade agreement territory, we cannot prefer local when we get into trade agreement territory. But what we can do is require community outcomes from it. So what we can basically approach it in the fact that we are pushing down the social value through that supply chain to the tier 1, to the tier 2, and push it through. So we can certainly ask our suppliers to articulate to us how they will do that, how they would create the community outcomes that you want. And that could be that you want local employment for youth or for Indigenous and things like that. And you basically pushing that down into that supply chain to make sure that there's jobs here. The unbundling is an interesting one as well. Unbundling, you cannot, the trade agreements don't allow you to intentionally unbundle to kind of avoid competition. So you can't intentionally unbundle to keep the values below the $75,000 or the $200,000 that are required by the New West Partnership Trade Agreement. But what you can do is encourage that if you're in territory to run competitions for those things and for your contractors to collaborate and work together. So there's a variety of different ways that working with the trade agreements that you can certainly attempt to get the outcomes that you want.
do you see it all like, or can you even put a requirement into local? Like I think of a project that's going on right now, see trades there, not local. And, you know, or does a municipality need to define what is local, right? Local may not just be Innisfail, that might be the first level of local, but then maybe it's Central Alberta is the second level of local and Alberta is the third sort of thing. So
You're absolutely right. The definition of local is different in all of the different jurisdictions. And basically when you start on this path, that is one of the key things that you actually will need to define. What does that mean? And certainly when you're looking to work under the trade agreement thresholds, when that less than 75K and 200, you know, is it owned, is it operated, is it, you know, do they have a business license here? There's a variety of things that you're going to be interested in working out so that you can actually determine if they fit your definition or not.
and do you see like in those RFPs, like a request that a community benefit agreement would be built in? So yes, you may get $1.5 million contract, but the expectation is, or a question in that RFP is, what are you going to leave behind? You know, is it 5%, 10%? Like, do you see that actually built into contracts? Or
You can certainly ask them, your suppliers, to explain how they will meet the outcomes. And then as part of the evaluation, you're going to then stack them up and say, well, that one actually brings more community value, therefore gets more points in that category. And then all the categories get added up. So it's really critical to actually work out those percentages and the assignment of the percentages across, dependent on what you want to achieve out of the procurement. Yeah, maybe not a fully straight answer, but it's very much procurement individually. Yeah, as you move through. Okay, so
I just got a question.
My apologies.
That's all right. Who's a champion in the province doing this? Like municipalities, like for us to kind of go back and look at what they're doing, kind of gives us a pull away. We can pull away from this one conversation and say, hey, how do we compare ourselves to somebody else, another municipality?
Yeah. Yeah, we have the city of Calgary, we have the city of Edmonton, we have the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. All are fully implemented with policies and practices underway in Alberta. We've got the federal government also doing quite a bit of work on diversifying their supply chain as well. BC, though, I would say is the province that has the most activity with social procurement, the most maturity as well. Like the city of Vancouver has a community benefit agreement framework and policy in place that they apply on certain size of contracts. So I would say BC is certainly the people to look for. But again, it's quite unique to the environments in which you're working and how it's applied and what tactics you use. So perhaps City of Calgary, City of Edmonton, and Wood Buffalo would maybe be more appropriate.
So our size of community, we'd be setting the bar, I guess, for, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
Yeah. You guys are eager and it's fantastic, right? When you think about what you can do within your community with the dollars that you already spend.
Yeah. And I think educating our business community and everything. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So once you've decided basically what outcomes you want to achieve, the next step is really looking at the pathways that can be applied. And there's two main pathways that really help to create that community benefit. The top pathway is the social purchasing. So this is leveraging the spend that goes through your procurement group. And this is generally associated with social value through the supply chain. The suppliers that you work with and how you raise the bar with those suppliers or acknowledge what they're currently doing today through the delivery of their goods and services to the town. The second pathway, though, and this is a pathway that is more associated with infrastructure and land development, and this is what's called community benefit agreements. And this is a little bit more complex because it includes more parties that come to the table, but there is certainly a huge amount of possibility and potential here for creating community benefit if you venture down this path of community benefit agreements. So maybe I'll just take a moment to explain kind of what each of those are. So social value through the supply chain is just pushing it into the supply chain and really trying to generate the outcomes through your procurements. Community benefit agreements is when the government, when private developers come together, and also the community. And as three parties together, you work together to generate the community benefit that is required or needed by the town through the private developer developing. So there's an example out in BC, and this was shared on the training course. And this was, they were building, a private developer was building a casino. And the community was a little bit, okay, you're building a casino, but you know, what's in it for us? And, you know, basically what they did, they actually got all the parties together. And part of the permitting and planning was to actually create a community benefit agreement. And they said, what does this community need? And the community actually needed some employment, youth employment, and some upskilling and trades. And they actually leveraged the building of that casino to get youth through some trades and into the plumbing trades, because they were building a casino, they were building a hotel, and it was a great opportunity to actually train people through that. And now to the other end, now you've got people with the ability to earn money, to prosper, and to have a career. So this is what we're talking about, community benefit agreements. It's basically putting some responsibility into the contracts with your private land developers to do more for the community than just building to the planning or the permitting that you've given them. And I believe you have a good example here already, Mayor Barclay, that you share with me and was shared today about the solar farm, that you actually have that development actually bringing something back into the community. So it's certainly along those lines. And so you've already off to a good start there. And it's whether or not you went to explore that within the town of Innisfail to be another lever to actually generate some community benefit here. The final one on this pathway is community employment benefits, CEBs. Now, this one is an interesting one, and this one is around infrastructure as well. But this is when, and this is related to the Canada. This is the Canada Infrastructure Program. And this is actually a funding agreement that comes from the federal level down through the provincial and down to local government. And within those funding agreements, they're actually mandating community employment benefits. Now we're talking about investments of $50 million and above. So the example that I'm aware of, and I've seen the requirements, is on the Green Line down in Calgary, where they're building the LRT. There is a requirement in that a community employment benefit is part of the contract for the build. And this is where it's mandated that at least 3 target groups from a list actually gain employment opportunities or procurement opportunities from that investment from the federal level. So this is written into the financing agreements. This is a requirement when it goes to market, that the contractors will fulfill that requirement in delivering that contract, with a requirement to report as well on an ongoing basis to show the value. So that is an interesting concept as well. It's requirements on the federal funding, but it's also an opportunity as well, perhaps for you to leverage that mechanism to actually generate some more employment opportunities here in the town. So we've talked about the outcomes that you want to achieve. We've talked about the pathways in which you can achieve it through procurement or land development and private development. Now we need to think about also then the practices on the ground and what that means for you as an administration and a council. What does that mean for when you're spending your dollars? So this is really on the pathway of the social value through the supply chain. And what we've seen, because we're in public procurement, is that we need to think about those threshold levels. And we have opportunities below the trade agreement thresholds to basically design a program and a practice that suits the town of Innisfail, that gets the outcomes that you want to achieve. And we've got 2 examples there: small buys and quote process. Small buys are those things that you buy with your corporate credit card. The decision, you know, somebody's retiring, you want to buy a gift. Well, how do you buy that gift? Well, perhaps this council wants to prioritize local and says, you know what, you will buy local, you will support local with those purchases, and you can make that choice. Down in, you know, when I was in the program in Calgary, we hadn't specifically said that, but we wanted to support local. So we said on small buys, try and support local. That is the direction. And it's as simple as that, right? When we're in that under trade agreement threshold. Quote process. The quote process, and I think we chatted earlier today, that you do have a quote process. And this is not being giving preference or buying local. This is just saying, when you go out and get your 3 quotes, include a supplier that's perhaps diverse or perhaps that supports the outcomes that you want. Include them in the process, give them an opportunity to see their price, to see what they can bring to the table. Not give them the contract, but include them. And then we get into trade agreements and the exceptions and non-application. And there's a variety of things there that does allow you to have some flexibility in how and who you award your contracts to. This is not necessarily where a lot of people are going to do the direct awards, because there is some hesitancy. Little bit, perhaps you might get an inexperienced supplier and there might be some challenges, but those can certainly be overcome with perhaps some pre-qualification processes that would allow you to do some direct awards off them. And set-asides. The biggest set-aside program that's happening here in Canada is the PSAB, which is the Aboriginal business one at the federal level, that basically pushes, I think it's around 5% of all spend should go to Aboriginal businesses. And they strive to do that on an annual basis through certain categories of spend. But the trade agreements do allow for some other set aside. So it's an opportunity for you to have a look at that and perhaps set aside a budget that you want to use to really generate some community benefit to an area that you want to target. And then we get into the over trade agreement threshold. So this is over 75K, it's over 200K on construction. And this is where you are in competitive territory. You're running your RFPs, you're going to market, but what you're doing is adding in that social value to the equation. And you're saying that's important and you're assigning it points. What we find is that there's 2 ways of doing that. There's the bid questionnaire, which basically asks questions that aligns with your values. And it says, are you paying a living wage? Are you employing youth? Are you providing apprenticeship programs to underrepresented groups, for example? And the answers to those questionnaires are part of the process to evaluate them. So if they say no, that's okay, 0 points. If they say yes, and provide the evidence, then they get points and are evaluated on that basis. So there's lots of examples of those big questionnaires, and it's certainly something that we spoke about on the training course around kind of the first step into social procurement in the competitive realm has certainly been that big questionnaire with jurisdictions applying that quite successfully. Contractual performance. So the big questionnaire is, what are you doing today? Show me the evidence of what you do today. The contractual performance is now saying, in the delivery of this contract, what will you do? Make a commitment to perhaps employ a certain percentage of underrepresented groups and things. That one is kind of, there's a little bit of hesitancy of moving into that contractual performance piece as you kind of wet your feet into this process. But as you get more confident, putting those contractual requirements into the contracts themselves can certainly bring a lot more value, because you're actually directing now into the future work of how your dollars are being spent. So there's two ways of doing it, and certainly there's examples of how people have been doing that with the RFP clauses and how to actually incorporate those into your procurements. So they're the practices. So outcomes, we get into the pathways, and then into the practices. And now I'll briefly just show you the landscape of, so Councillor Hysted, this is kind of where you're going with what is happening in Alberta and around Alberta. And I've selected these three purely because they have it in place and implemented. So we have the City of Calgary, and what I wanted to point out here is actually how they've gone about the policy piece and the pathway, really more so than anything. So in the City of Calgary, they had a 3-year program. They piloted a lot to see what worked, and they actually put a policy in place in 2021. And that policy was a council policy. So they have two types of policies, the council and then the administration policy. And the council policy was actually titled Public Value Through Procurement, generating community value through the procurement. And no prescription, no how, but it was just that really like that outcome based. We want to generate more public value from the procurement dollars that we spend. And on the right-hand side of the slide, I've just given you some examples of the buying local and the different strategies that they used from that table that I previously showed you. The main pathway is the social value through the supply chain. I haven't, well, I left over a year ago, but I hadn't seen that community benefit agreements actually being in play. It may be in play now. So that's the City of Calgary. The City of Edmonton has actually chosen to incorporate social procurement into their sustainable procurement policy. So they have basically integrated economic, quality, environmental, and social value together and said that we want to procure our goods and services on that basis. And they again speak about the trade agreements, how making sure to the extent permitted by the trade agreements, because you have to maintain that integrity and follow those processes. So they have a sustainable procurement policy. They're also doing it through this social value through the supply chain. They are perhaps doing the CBAs, but I'm not familiar with those. They commenced in 2018 and they went very quickly into policy. So they went policy first and then into working through it. Calgary took their time, took time over a 3-year period through a planned program and then went to policy. You can choose whichever way you decide to do that. There's you know, there's no specific script on that. And then if we look at the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, so they were very early in 2016. And a lot of us were actually watching what they were doing to see how they progressed. And they've gone through about 5 years of having an original policy in place, and have just recently revised that policy in 2021. And they have chosen to actually incorporate social procurement as their foundational procurement policy. So their procurement policy speaks to all of the different elements that they want to achieve, wrapped up into one policy, which I actually like. And we've seen some of those examples out in BC. I think Squamish is a really good example of having a very comprehensive foundational policy that covers all aspects of procurement. And again, social value through the supply chain, and they are absolutely looking towards local and Indigenous community benefit They specifically speak about that. Now on this presentation, I put links to each of the websites. There is a lot more reading and resources. These groups have done a tremendous amount of work to get this program off the ground. And certainly it's something to refer to as you embark on your journey. So the third section was just really to do a wrap up and also just to suggest perhaps a broader approach. We've seen Edmonton take the broader approach of sustainable procurement. We've seen Wood Buffalo take it as an approach as to the complete procurement, delivering the things that are important to their community. And perhaps this is an opportunity for you to also cover a broader topic of sustainability with the pathway to net zero by 2050, the climate, the carbon footprint pieces. Transforming procurement is challenging. It's a big task, and it's a big task within your administration and also within your supplier community too. So it's an opportunity to perhaps combine a few changes that you may be looking to do and put them together and engage and change on that basis. So I just wanted to leave you with that thought. And I'll wrap up there. Thank you.
Sarah, can you just mention to everyone maybe some shifts you've seen, some of the big construction companies, as well as, we spoke before about, we're seeing some verbiage come out of organizations like the Business Council of Alberta and the Alberta Construction Association saying that they need to see more social procurement within their industries. And, you've seen a shift in some pretty major companies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And I think just even the attendees on the training courses that we've been delivering and the private cohorts that people have been signing up for is certainly showing a shift and that competitive edge. It's not necessarily a competitive edge now. It's actually, how do we want these points and how do we get them because we're falling behind? Not only in the construction industry, but also the engineers and architects. We had a big firm reach out and say, we've started to rank lower. We want to know what we can do. I also do a lot of work with the Calgary Construction Association. I delivered a social procurement 101 for contractors, how they can ready themselves to respond to government procurements. And there was a lot of interest. There was 20+ people in that room. So it was certainly a signal to me that the industry is starting to be interested in it as well. We're seeing partnerships as well. We're seeing a couple of big construction firms kind of start to join up and come together and say, let's build better, let's do better. So I think they're realizing, the industry is realizing that this isn't going away. This is something that is here. It's going to be fundamental to public procurement, and we need to adjust accordingly. You're going to have some people that are early adopters. You're going to have some bystanders that are going to wait and watch. Perhaps you're going to have some staunch resistors, but what we're hoping is that the more that we can educate, the more that we can have these conversations, that we can suggest that buying better is the way to go.
And as an organization, we talk about the other side, but from our side as an organization, like, do we need to develop out our corporate responsibility values? And we have values in our strat plan, but that's kind of plain and simple, where we're asking these companies to do this, but we need to make sure we're doing that as well, right? And
yeah. Absolutely true. And I think when you look at your strategic priorities, the first place to look is, are you walking the talk on those as well? And we had a conversation earlier today about perhaps a supplier code of conduct. That was certainly a step that has been needed to be taken, because when you're talking about raising the bar on your suppliers, like, you need some documentation. And then when you look at that supplier code of conduct, does that reflect itself in your own HR policies? Does it reflect itself in your recruitment policies? Does it, so certainly it is an internal look, as well as then what you're asking the supplier community to do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Wing.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. I just wanted to go back for a second to your story about Wood Buffalo.
Yeah.
Did they do that in response to the fire and trying to encourage local businesses to come back to Fort McMurray, or was it like it happened in the same year? So I'm just curious about the impact of a local government trying to be responsive to the needs of the community and whether that worked for them.
You know, I think, thank you for that question. I have, and I'm not sure on the timing, but I know that Wood Buffalo had started to do some local preference work early. And then there was the Fort McMurray fires. And then there was certainly a very specific mandate that allowed them to procure locally for the rebuild of Fort McMurray. And that was actually, I think, even an appendix, I think, or an addendum to the trade agreements that actually allowed them to do that, to build. So I think it was perhaps very close timing that they were embarking on that journey, and then the disaster occurred, and yeah, I'll take a look at that timing and just see. Thank you for the question.
Councillor Heisted.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, in Calgary, Edmonton, with Buffalo, was it administrative pushing it, or was it political? I'm like, who led it? Who led the change?
If I may just speak specifically to Calgary, because I've firsthand experience of that one. There was a conference that social procurement was spoken about, and a pamphlet landed on my desk from the mayor, from Mayor Nenshi, that said, we should look into this. This is interesting. Social procurement, what is this? So that landed on my desk, but the actual real drive to it was a councillor that called me and said, Sarah, you are coming to a meeting with me to meet with a community group called Momentum that provides employment opportunities. You're going to come with me and we're going to have a conversation about doing social procurement. So it was certainly political. It came from council. Councillor Carra was the leader of that, but then very quickly, many members of council actually were named on that notice of motion. We helped to write the notice of motion, and it went through in council in April of 2018 and was unanimously supported for us to embark on the journey of social procurement, and to basically go through a pilot, do a good planning. Let's see what could happen. At that point in time, it was called social procurement. And then very quickly, there was comments around the name of social procurement. And then over time, through the Business Advisory Committee, it was actually renamed to benefit-driven procurement, to give it just a different feel to it of what we were trying to achieve. So that was certainly something that occurred through council, through the advisory committees, and got administration working towards social procurement.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think there's tons of opportunities for us to engage and create jobs in our community for young people and adults that may be looking for something local and keeping people locally. So thanks to Erica and Todd for that. That's good.
So I guess CEO Becker and Director Vickers, we had a motion a few months ago to move to social procurement policy, or to create one. Like, where do we go from here?
Maybe Mayor Barkley is kind of get into a question to Sarah. Maybe it ties in, but certainly not avoiding your question. But I was about to ask Sarah, just through my understanding, which is minuscule on the bigger scheme, but on a journey. But it is a journey, and it's not just a policy framework. It's not just a supporting procedure. Can you talk about culture and that whole peace mindset, and how does that play into this process?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And certainly this is something that requires a lot of investment of time and resources and conversation and engagement. The change aspect of this is huge, because you're running an operation. You need to provide the services out there, and that challenge doesn't go away. And then when you're adding other activities, and perhaps people would see it as red tape to the process, it can be challenging then to get the adoption. It can be challenging internal within your administration. It can be challenging with the suppliers who you're now saying that we want to do something different. So the intentional engagement, the intentional change leadership, putting the real resources behind that is key, or else this will just end up being a policy in a drawer. So you really have to work on lifting those words off the page and really making sure it becomes embedded and fully operationalized.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It really helps me with the mayor's question. And that'd be my view just through what I've learned through the training through Sarah and her colleagues, and Eric can chime in as well. And is just moving into a mindset. But if council continues to be interested in this conversation, I'd recommend to put it back to administration to create some sort of an action plan of some sort to initiate conversation and with targets. But for my training, for what I've learned, continue to learn is a very important process, but it is a shift for sure. But certainly looking for council's feedback. We do have resources, obviously, with knowledge, but it certainly would take some time. I'd prefer, my recommendation to you would be to kind of do the assessment of culture and to help mold into a mindset, not full in, that has to be part of that process, but start a process. And we started today with staff, some key administrative staff, but it's not an all in process, but to help maybe we kind of assess our culture and our assessment or mindset as we advance into a more robust policy program. That'd be my recommendation.
So can we just leave it with you then, CEO Becker, and you can proceed as you see fit? Or
no, Mayor Barkley.
Okay.
It's really up to council.
But I guess, like, what are you looking for? A motion to do? Like, we already have a motion that was supported with social procurement. What do you need?
Yeah.
What
I
else
guess,
do you need from us?
I guess either an hour later, a conversation of council on what your expectations
Okay.
are. We're here to serve you. And if we had a hate on for this, I'd tell you that this
Okay.
is not the best for our organization or community. I'm not in any position to say that. I think it's a vital tool to advance our community for the long term. It kind of fits into your strategies for economic development, which includes social and environment, not just commerce. But yeah, leverages a lot of opportunity. We're social champions, but our social network needs support. So there's so many wins to this. So that's certainly looking for you to speak to help the dialogue. But I'd recommend we advance the process, whatever that looks like. I'd certainly take that away from the conversation you'll have at some point.
So let's go around the table here and get comments. So Councillor Bates.
Well, I guess I think Todd summed it up. CAO Becker summed it up that I thought we had said, let's investigate. And this is a step in that investigation. And I don't remember us actually saying, let's go there. So let's keep seeing those pieces as it evolves. I already had thought to myself when we later discussed an award of a contract, I was going to ask if there was a social component to it, but open mind, let's baby steps, big steps, whatever, identify them and proceed.
Yeah, I would agree with Councillor Bates. I think we'll need, I would be interested in understanding the outcomes of a process like this as it benefits our town corporation as well as our larger community. So yeah, I think if we can demonstrate that it's good for all of us, I think that we should be continuing to move down the path. So I would support that.
Thank you. I guess I'll take a step back and just look at it from a social value sort of perspective as what I've seen through my own purchasing in my own day-to-day life and following what corporations, what their values are, what they add to society. And so I think that discussion has broadened substantially in the last decade, and that we are as citizens and private people looking at that more. And I think that this aligns with that as well. And I think it's just a natural progression. And I mean, looking at what the social procurement will, what are those preconceived ideas. And I guess for me, I still see this sort of as that it's in its infancy. and that there probably aren't as many businesses out there that have their values sort of written down. So I do see that there'll probably be some stumbling blocks within trying to find businesses that will work with us on that. But like we said, it's step by step by step. And I think it's good for us to explore it and to move forward with it. And once again, I mean, it does fit into everything that we've talked about as a council and is what our future is for this town. So definitely go forward with it.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, I'm all over it. I want us to just go. I've seen organizations who have taken such good advantage of this kind of a model. I've seen organizations who have lost the opportunity, and you kind of look at them and wonder, like, how did you not see how you could have done so much for your community by just putting in a clause like this into a contract or into your procurement processes? And I've also taken part. I led a huge social finance project. And to me, the way you've got it set up here and the way that you kind of have explained things to me, I don't know, I must be missing out on something. It doesn't seem like it will be that big of a job to kind of move in this direction, especially because there are levels of it. And, you know, there's a place to start. Yeah, so I did have a question. What is a benefit-driven procurement questionnaire? Is that like a template, or is that something that we develop ourselves?
So it is something that you will need to develop yourselves because it needs to align with your values. But there are examples available. There's many of them out there now that basically it is a set of questions that gets attached to the procurements when they go out, you know, onto
Okay,
the market.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And thank you again, Sarah, for your presentation. I'm somewhat enlightened and I fully support it. I think we got to get out in front of it from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. And what we're probably going to observe over time is that it's coming. And, you know, there's no sense sticking our heads in the sand. And I use the example of the C of R. I was heavily involved in a forestry perspective. And we go back to, I was requesting companies before they could bid on a forestry contract that they had a C of R. And then I awoke one morning and said, hey, where's our C of R, right? And it became pretty evident. So I'd like to get out in front of this. And yes, it's probably going to take some time and some resources to push this forward. But I think now is the time to start. We want to get in on the ground floor. And like everything that we do in the province, we want Innisfail to lead that from a municipality. So the short answer, Mayor Barkley, is I fully support it. And I think we need to move fairly quickly. Thank you.
I liked what Cindy had to say and Don had to say and everybody else. Like what I look at it is we can't put our heads in the sand. We have to lead, and it's an opportunity to educate our business community. I think there's a lot of young people that we lose, young people in small towns, because we don't do things like this. We don't work with the schools. We don't work with apprenticeships. There's opportunities. We got, the Biltons, the trades union shop. We got all those in working groups that we could really build in Innisfail. And I think this is the council to do it. So that's my answer. It's a little long. Thanks.
Wasn't very long. So CEO Becker, now you've got your answer.
Do you guys have anything you want to add in? You're good?
No, I do think that this will be a bit of a longer process for us. Likely do a lot of testing and education before we actually get in and get the policy signed. So I'm sure we'll come back to you with some brainstorming sessions and get what values council finds most appropriate when we take those and develop our policy from that. So was good. It was a good presentation. I'd just like to thank Sarah for coming and yeah.
Oh, Mayor Barkley, just a supplemental on it, following up to Director Vickers. You said we need a policy. I think we have the policy. We need we don't have the policy?
No.
We don't have the policy. So what did we, what resolution did we have here a couple months ago?
We made a motion a few months ago that we would develop a social procurement policy. And this is kind of a first step in it. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think when Todd looked in, CEO Becker looked into it, it was maybe a little bit bigger than, well, just develop a policy, right? It's a whole,
Okay.
a whole culture shift.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mayor Barkley. And I agree with Councillor Massaros. I don't see this as a big issue. I see it's in the scoring, and that's the key, right? Set out in the RFP or however we're going to frame it, the requirements, and then you just add a scoring to it. You know, no different than what we're doing now. And you know, I think at times we tend to overthink some of this stuff. Or everybody's laughing at me like,
No, not at all.
you know, am I sort of on track? Or? Yeah, that's good. I just spent a week with Councillor I sit in Regina, so we're buds, right? But yeah, that's the way I see it. I really don't, you know, maybe the time will be in developing the policy so that we get that right. But when it comes to the action plan, Mayor Barkley and CEO Becker, I really don't see it as a lot of work. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but could I have a response to that? Because you've worked with this, Sarah, and you know, so what's involved for a municipality to kick this off? Thank you.
Great question. Great question. And, you know, I would have said the same thing myself too, when we started on the journey. And then, you know, when we look at it, the key thing really is the engagement and taking the time with the community, with the suppliers, with administration. And that takes building relationships, building trust. Not that we're just changing somebody's day over here, which you can do on a piece of paper, but did it actually have the effect that you wanted it to have? And I think it's really just planning the amount of time to have that really effective engagement, two-way dialogue that brings everybody to the same page. And I think once everybody's on the same page, then the actions can go quickly. I think the benefit for yourselves is that a few people have gone before you, and that we've actually had a good training session with you know, senior leaders from your administration that now have listened to kind of perhaps the way to accelerate it a little bit more quickly. Like if I think about Calgary, it was a 3-year program. And even at the 3rd year, when the policy was, you know, I just left just before the policy actually got stamped by council, but it did take that time because they ran 60+ pilots to make sure that they were getting it right, to make sure that that percentage weighting was the right percentage weighting that actually created the benefit. So, you know, I agree that we'll get a policy and say it's, but then there's all of those different elements that we speak about truly embedding it in the organization and within your community. That just takes a little bit longer. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah, for that. Thanks for the question. I think I wouldn't mind just taking away, talk to the administration team, come back to you with a report, add into this conversation, then you can formalize a little bit more direction, get it on your action control, make sure we don't lose sight, and make sure this conversation continues. So yeah, I wouldn't mind dialing in with these 3 folks and then and continue on if that's okay with you, Mayor and Council.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind either CEO Becker, like at some point seeing this delivered into the Community Economic Development Advisory Group as well. I think that may be an important component as well, since, you know, that's kind of supporting that whole strategy too, and fits so well. Like it just fits with everything. So thank you very much, Sarah. It was great to meet you, and carry on. Have a great day, and thanks for coming up.
Thanks, Sarah.
We take a 5-minute recess.
Sure, how about 2, because we have people waiting. 2 minutes, is that okay?
Yeah, 2's fine.
Okay. On with CEO Becker and the Transition Accelerator.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Just presenting a education opportunity for council consideration, which based on council's interest could lead into others that taking the same training. I'm really looking for your feedback, council question, and see if you wish to proceed with this opportunity. The training is through the Transition Accelerator. As the report states, it's a nonprofit organization that promotes positive transformative system reforms that address societal concerns while propelling Canada to a net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And so just kind of frame it up in more outside of the actual reports. We talk a lot or hear a lot about net zero. And it's a kind of feel good that, hey, we want to develop a industrial park in net zero. We'll do our part. And but what does that really mean? I know that the terminology of net zero, but I don't really understand how do we realistically get there? What it's not just an opportunity and an investment in, and what is it, and what are the opportunities, but what are the challenges to actually achieve something? If we declare net zero, what does that mean? What strategies do we need to apply to even move towards a net zero development of some sort? So just in research and conversation, came across through other discussions, this training opportunity. And the reason why it's coming before you is it would be a really good opportunity to learn more of generally what I say to you as you move into your advancing your energy policy, and look at facility developments, move into the EFL roadshow, and if energy is part of your primary lens for moving the community forward, it'd be certainly important to understand the concepts associated with net zero and moving towards a zero emissions society. So the course, if council wishes to proceed, would be held over 2 consecutive days. Each day would have 3 hours per session. Attached is the outline, which we'll get to in a second. But generally, the training would include the modules. Module 1, net zero, the nature of the challenge. Module 2, system change, accelerating transitions, and module 3, pathways, a strategic approach. In meeting with the accelerator, and again, not forcing myself onto you, council, on the training, but the accelerator has some openings, one being June the 20th to 21st, sorry, to provide training. So again, the report does provide a outline. It could be shifted slightly to meet your objectives, but the outline's there for your review. but also a supporting document, pathways to net zero, and kind of supports just generally what I told you about what is net zero, why is that important, and really how do we get there, and making sure that whoever's speaking to net zero is on the same vocabulary. So the idea is to put us all into the same level of understanding regarding net zero. So if we're talking recreation facility, what does that net zero mean? If we're talking about a development, what does net zero mean? So really it's to increase our vocabulary and IQ regarding energy and net zero. So I'll just leave it there. There's a lot of holes in this report, but if there's more to chat about, I'd be happy to hopefully answer your questions.
Thank you, CEO Becker. And yeah, I would definitely be in favor, and I think it's important. I know things seem to be changing so quickly, and you know, we are decision makers at this table, and I even think of, you know, urban planning and going forward with infrastructure and you know, power needs, et cetera, as we get into EVs and all sorts of things. We know there's hydrogen work going on in the community. And so I think the more knowledgeable we are, the better decisions we can make and understand where things are going. So Councillor Bates.
So for my part, I certainly recognize the value and would support doing it, but I personally can't attend on the 2 days that are suggested. So that's just my input.
Yeah, I would support it. And just, I'm in a similar situation as Councillor Bates. If there's 20th, I'm like jam, 21st, I'm open. But if there's an opportunity to take, you know, half of it and then maybe bump it somewhere else, that'd be good. But it's just flexibility. So I'm good with if everybody else wants to take it then.
Yes, I agree. I support, and I'm just going to check my dates. If you just. That was the 21st and 20th.
I'd suggest probably the morning of the 20th and morning of the 21st.
I'm certainly available, and I support it.
I support it as well. I'm not sure, 100% sure if I'm available on those 2 days. Do they come here and deliver it? CO Becker?
Oh, I think it's virtual, I believe. Customer zeros.
Oh, okay. So we can do it from wherever.
Definitely on board, and yes, I'm available for both days.
Yes, I support the initiative, and I can make myself available those 2 mornings.
Yeah.
If I could just to explain, so back when we had the rush of vacation, I think communicated to everybody that this next 2 weeks, starting next Tuesday, my son that I haven't seen in 3 years is coming back from Singapore. And if I just keep edging out another day, then there's nothing happening. And I'm committing to the AMP and the council meeting, and I'll catch a couple more things because they go places, but I just can't. Thank you.
So Councillor Bates, would you rather attend it? Like, would you rather us push it back to September, or would you be okay listening to a recorded version of it?
I'd be okay, but I could understand that they might not want to do that because they're proprietary, whatever they're charging a lot of money for this thing. But if I can do it that way, that would work. I can do that.
Maybe that was something you could find out, CO Becker, if they would, there'd be a link to it, and we can take it from there.
So council, with just going into the report, and what I'm suggesting on the financial impacts component was to kind of put it out there a little bit further. So inclusive of council, of course, SLT, and probably a few other stakeholders. Perhaps the members of the economic development advisory group, or not, maybe not all, but maybe selected few, tied into the EFL roadshow side of things. That's kind of the thought with this report. So looking around that 15 people, so that kind of doubles council's population here. So that was kind of the idea, and I guess if you support that, it's certainly put that out. And part of me is certainly ask the question, but what is that line, I guess, with council, and how many do you want to participate, because there is value in that participation, not just listening. And then what if others aren't available? I guess what is that line? I'm not sure we'd have an answer to that, but I can certainly look into that.
I see you, Becker. Like, would you like someone to make the recommended motion, and then you can find out who's available and not available? And I mean, if it's not going to work, then that's okay too.
Sure. How about Mayor Barkley, make the motion, and then I'll report back next Monday on the results of that a conversation with the other potential participants.
Mayor Barkley, can I get clarification on how much time it's going to take? In one place, it says 3 3-hour sessions. In another place, it says 2 3-hour sessions.
And my apologies, Councilor Zeros, on the confusion. It's 2 3-hour sessions.
2 3-hour sessions. Okay, that makes a difference for me. Yeah.
Can I make the recommended motion? Please, then, that council approve organizing and delivering the Transition Accelerators Pathways to Net Zero course for June 20th and 21st of 2022.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And we'll move to 5.1. We have Manager Shaw with us today to talk about a land sale.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So today we have a report before you that is discussing a vacant property on 50th Street. It's a property that's owned by the town and is currently vacant. The reason for this report is that we had an unsolicited request / offer type of thing come before us a very short time ago. The individual was interested in providing $40,000 to the town for the purchase of this property. It's currently, as I said, vacant. You see there's a photo on the second page there, looking north towards 50th from the alleyway. So there's some vegetation, and basically it's cleared in the center portion. Administration made no commitment to the offer. We wanted to bring it forward to council for discussion and for direction. The assessed value of the property is $62,000. The town has put a lot of investment into the property for the demolition of a residence that was formerly there, as well as legal and other type of expenses. So really, we feel that anything short of $55,000, it doesn't cover our expenses. So that would kind of be like the threshold in terms of looking at any offers that were going to be made on the property. It is zoned under the central business district, which does allow for commercial uses as well as mixed uses. Back in 2019, there was a proposal that came forward for mixed use on the property. I suspect because of COVID and whatnot, that kind of fell through. And so it's remained vacant for a short time period here. So administration would like to come forward to you and seek direction from you from the standpoint that we want to make sure that we get the best value for the town and make sure that we are fulfilling our requirements under the DMGA with respect to putting the property up for sale. Now, we don't have a property appraisal for the property, so this is something that that I've used in other municipalities to ensure that we do get the best value from the property. And so in the recommended motion, we have two motions here. One is that administration only accepts those offers that are over 55,000 or more. And two, that we look at obtaining an appraisal or professional opinion on the property just to ensure that we're getting the proper value for this parcel.
Thank you, Manager Shaw. So question, are there any requirements as to a minimum price at this point on that property?
So there is certain provisions, Mayor Barkley, in the MGA, if we do sell below assessed value, that those we do have to advertise that and put it out for the public. But other than that, we can sell properties likely for anything we want, but.
Yeah, I guess I look at this, it's been sitting for 6 years. It's a difficult lot at best. And if somebody bought it and built on it, we would probably make up that difference in property taxes as opposed to sitting on this lot for maybe another 6 years. So I don't know whether it was a formal offer that came or just an email. So
Mayor and council, this was basically through a email string. The person had indicated an interest. He had been looking at other properties within the town. He noted that this one, was it for sale? Was it not for sale kind of thing? So we had responded to him and basically indicated this is what the situation is with this particular property. So from the standpoint of there being an actual formal type of offer, right now it's just a email, but he is very interested in purchasing the property.
yeah, I personally, just my opinion, but I wouldn't want to go with the 55 as a minimum. I say, well, let the offer come in and let's negotiate and see where it falls and can say yay or nay at that time. But do you need a realtor's or a formal evaluation on the property through MGA requirements, Director Vickers, or no?
No, Mayor Barkley, through the MGA, it's the assessed
Assessed value.
value from our assessors.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Hystad.
I agree with what you say, Your Worship. That property's been sitting there for quite some time. I think I just want to clarify, didn't Darcy and Nicole have that for a while? So is it just ours? Are we just selling it now? Are they still selling it?
No, our listing with Remax has expired.
Okay.
Quite some time ago, and we hadn't made a determination to relist it, so it would just be directly through the town.
Yeah, I agree with Mayor Barkley. So basically, we just need to, in my mind, just get an appraisal, right?
Well, I don't think we need an appraisal. We have an assessed value. What we need is a formal offer.
Sorry.
Your Worship, am I the only one that's finding this to be a difficult discussion in a public, in more or less public?
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Be a point of order. Maybe we should move this to an in-camera discussion. Or I don't know.
There's no, sorry to interject.
Well, you're almost setting a price. You're basically, I guess what I'm finding awkward is if we followed the recommendation, then the next person that walks in with that price, that's it. You're not, does that necessarily gain the best value, or should you have an auction with a reserve, or like there's just all kinds of stuff you could.
I'm not saying set a price. I'm saying let a formal offer come in and we can go from there.
Can I provide some context for council as well on these types of properties? Essentially, we would recoup our expenses. If we get any more than what our expenses are, they actually go back to the estate of the individual because it was a tax recovery. So it's not one of those things where we're gonna make more money as the town if we sell it for a higher value.
Mayor Barclay, Director Vickers, so as per the mayor's suggestion, would that still comply with the MGA?
Mayor Barclay through to CEO Becker. I'd have to research and just reread those sections of the MGA just to make sure that we follow the steps correctly. We may have to advertise before we
Yes.
actually sell it.
Right.
To put that out there for public, because maybe someone else would come in and want to offer higher.
So is the motions a moot point? Like, are you wanting us to direct administration to obtain appraisal? Or accept, 55 or more? Like, I'm confused now. And I just want to make sure that we're clear.
Yeah, Mayor Barclay, Councilor Heisted, I guess it's really kind of just part of the motion. What do you want to do with that property? And it'll likely lead into direction back to administration. We have a pending inquiry and administration has provided you with this information and the recommended action. Doesn't mean we're capturing your vision for that property. So really, what do you want to do with the property?
Well, I would say let's table this for now, and Director Vickers, do your research into the MGA and see exactly what steps we need to take to make sure we do this the right way. And you can come back and maybe report back to us next council meeting. Does that work for you? Okay. Yeah. Does that work for you, Manager Shaw?
Mayor and council, yes, we'll report back to the inquirer that this was the action directed by council, and we'll bring back a report to you in the future.
Okay, thank you, and appreciate this coming forward. Councilor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Is it okay if we also direct administration to obtain an appraisal? Or is that something that we would find out when Director Vickers, after you reread the MGA sections?
Mayor Barclay, Councilor Mazeros, any of those. If council feels you want an appraisal, you can give that direction. But what I'm hearing is tabled. So if that's tabled, then it's really cut off. You can add in if you want additional information, but what we're hearing, if I'm saying this correctly, this item is tabled pending the nature of the report applied to the requirements of the MGA.
And would you want a, Councilor Maceros, like a real estate evaluation or an actual appraisal? So, two different things.
I'm not really sure. I guess an appraisal from the bank.
Will be an appraisal from an appraiser. So it would be probably $800, I'm guessing, to have it appraised. Real estate evaluation would be potentially no charge. Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. I think maybe just, come back next meeting and the MGA will set some things straight. And
I'm fine with the tabling,
Okay.
and that's where I just want to get this going. So I'm okay with the tabling. Let's vote.
Who made that motion?
Jean did, I thought. Mayor Barclay.
I'll make a motion that we table this till next meeting. So we can get direction from administration.
Sure.
Okay. Fill that blank in. Okay. Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Do we want to change order a little bit? Since
Yeah, I think that'd be fair.
Okay.
Mayor Barkley.
All right, I think
That's
we'll,
good.
we'll jump to 8.1. We have Staff Sergeant Matichuk and Manager Leith here to deliver our CMP annual performance plan. So welcome.
So if the purpose is to set the RCMP strategic priorities for 2022-2023. The background RCMP request input on strategic priorities to reflect the community needs. These are normally in addition to those set out by K Division. K Division have set no mandatory priorities for the up and coming year, but have suggested the following themes: crime prevention, property crime, and community engagement. The suggested themes line up with the strategic priorities put forward by the Policing and Safer Community Committee on May 19th. The recommended motion is that Council approve the 3 RCMP strategic priorities as recommended by the Policing and Safer Community Committee, one being crime prevention, focusing in the areas of property and vehicle theft. 2, community engagement, focusing on in-person engagement with 2 town hall events. And 3, visibility, focusing on multi-agency traffic operations.
You're finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking. Could I have somebody please make the recommended motion? And we can have some discussion, questions.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Any discussion, questions, Councillor Bates?
Yeah, just respecting the policing and safety community recommendations. I fully support those. And on a personal note, as I still daily in the town see a lot of speeding starts from stop wherever they are, lots of noise, lots of clouded windows, lots of distracted driving, and any and all of those things that can be worked into this would be just great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, I would also, the noise, I went to a local coffee establishment the other day and was stopped, and there was a lot of discussion from the group about noisy mufflers and that kind of thing, so speeding and
Mayor Berkeley, thank you. I also support this. I think if you look back through correspondence that we've been receiving lately, that a lot of these points is what we prevalently see, and I as well get my ear bent quite a bit, which I'm happy to listen, and it's all on these topics. So I'm very happy to see that these are 3 top priorities, definitely.
Yeah, no, I think the priorities make sense. I want to thank everybody on the policing committee, the work that's been done, especially the community members. I think there's a huge opportunity with the town hall events and you know, helping our local RCMP and bylaw enforcement with the work. So yeah, it's I guess it's ongoing, this job, right? And thanks.
okay, thank you. So anything else? No, all in favor of the motion? Okay, passed. Thank you. Oh, sorry, CEO Becker.
No, that's waiting for your motion. I certainly, I know new council has not had the privy to engage with Staff Sergeant Matichuk, and I wonder, Chris, if you wouldn't mind just speaking, I don't want to interject to the report, but to speak to the APP and how that kind of applies, and how do you, and Manager Lee, how do you work with this direction? Like, how does it make it real on the streets, basically, based on some of the feedback you received?
Yeah. Totally agree with the feedback, and a multi-agency approach, I think, gets the visibility a lot more than just a single police car driving around and stuff. And the
the distracted driving, people are very, very knowledgeable, and they see a police car from a long ways away. If you drive a marked police car, you can't find it. But if I take my personal vehicle through town, I can see a lot of distracted driving. So people are very are trained in watching for police vehicles. So an approach in a multi-agency capacity, we can have spotters, and then we get down the road, we get the visibility with our community partners, and it seems to work very, very well in these type of enforcements. The APP process, like this year, there was no mandatory, but the province would like to see the crime prevention, community engagement. And then as a result of the community surveys we've been doing and through the policing committee, the visibility focusing on multi-agency traffic safety operations was obvious that what we're hearing from the community. So we threw that include that third priority in there from what we've been hearing from the community and stuff. And this year, I'm very happy the committee had a lot of input into it, and the survey helped us achieve these priorities quite well. So I'm looking forward to this upcoming year and see how we can move forward. So our next step would be is to develop some measurables with the priorities and goals to the number of traffic operations and so forth, and a number and additional to the 2 town hall events, try to still encourage our members to be in the community and attend all sorts of functions for visibility. And so we'll develop some measures and include them with the 3 priorities.
CEO Becker, did you have something to?
Yeah, just to add, and Mayor Barkley, in order to Gary's role, that he also provides or develops objectives. And Gary, can you speak on, especially on the traffic piece, how does your department kind of roll into what Chris is saying as well?
Yeah, the joint force operation piece is something that we set as strategic priorities and try to do monthly traffic ops, certainly with RCMP and also CP Rail Police. This year, we approved in our budget was a new radar, handheld radar, which we can hit up to 900 meters with. So that gives us additional tools in our armory where we can, in some ways, park our vehicles out of line of sight, so to speak, so we don't have that issue. And again, the reliance on the community to turn around and support. Certainly, we've had some good support in Centennial Park in the parking lot, which we'll talk about after this, is where we're having like community reporting of certain activities which we can follow up with the use of the cameras to turn around and provide enforcement, which again provides discouragement certainly when our youth tend to know that they can actually be tagged for some of these activities that they think that they're going to get away with in some of our public areas.
Okay, thank you very much. And Staff Sergeant Matichuk, can you tell us, like, how do you determine where to start, I guess, enforcing traffic? And is that through data that you've collected, or?
Yeah, partnering up with the town and the speed signs, and that gives us dates and times where we can more effectively do our patrols, and speaking to the community and getting the message for people to report crime and report issues, because then we can take their input and either confirm or and the more enhance our measures so we're more successful in the traffic initiatives, rather than blindly driving around and through town. So the more information we can get back from the community, the better we can conduct our patrols to be more successful.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think if you can, or town and your organization, get more communication out about reporting, because you're not going to solve the problem on Facebook.
No.
Right? You're going to solve it by reporting. And I know there's likely a reluctance if people have to get involved. People are leery to get involved, right? And a little bit afraid of that. The other question I want to ask you, a little bit off subject here, but we're seeing some chatter around about drones in the community. So what happens if, like, there was quite probably 70 comments about drones in a particular neighborhood? I think it was up around the hospital. And how does that get dealt with?
Well, the drones, there's different types of drones and sizes, and they have rules and regulations and heights and times when they can fly. And if I haven't seen no complaints come into our office with regards to drone flying. So we need people to report
Yeah.
that, to get that information to us. And then we can research and go speak with people when it's happening.
So do they come to you, or would they go to a Transport Canada? And
Well, the
Because I-
RCMP has authority
Okay.
to all federal and provincial acts within.
Okay.
So we will work with Transport Canada and confirm the sizes and confirm
Okay.
if there is a contravention. So we will work directly with them, but it definitely should come to us, and then we can liaise with Transport Canada if need be.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to 8.2 Centennial Park.
The purpose is to request council support for the recommended actions in relation to Centennial Park. Administration consistently received complaints relating to youth gathering, vehicle stunting, littering and noise at Centennial Parking lot, with relating speed, stunting on and noise on 50th Street and 60th Avenue. RCMP and municipal enforcement work collaboratively in providing additional patrols, engagement with use and joint force speeding operations. Data collection using the traffic signs identified occasional breaches of speed on those roads, with 85% of the traffic at or below the posted speed limit on 50th Street and 60th Avenue. Noting that the volume of traffic, our daily average is around 1,000 vehicles a day on those roads. Request to install a gate was rejected by previous council, but resulted in the installation of the closed circuit camera system that currently is in the parking lot. These cameras have been utilised to provide enforcement related to stunting and littering. These complaints were generated and supported by the community reporting of incidents and continue to be effective. The current park bylaw was last revised in 2006 and includes a quiet time currently posted at 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. A review and update of this bylaw is due with the ability to support enforcement of potential antisocial behaviour and noise. Interactions by RCMP and municipal enforcement with youth gathering in this area is generally noted as respectful with consideration to the neighbours. The recommended motion that council approves reviewing of the parks bylaw 1440 in relation to quiet hours being adjusted to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Additional signage at the parking lot, installation of speed humps at the entrance of Centennial Park. Those speed humps would provide greater opportunity to get good, clear pictures of number plates if infractions were noted by those particular vehicles. And consideration of an installation of a time gate at the entrance of Centennial Park in the 2023 budget. Recommend that of the speed humps at the entrance to improve signage in the parking lot as well. Review and revision of the current parks bylaw, and the communication strategy is signage at the park entrance, the website, and that should be the town voice instead of the tow voice. Apologies for that. We did include an opportunity for signage there as well, because the signage is quite important to allow us to inform, is making people aware of things such as the quiet time. Again, being mindful of how they conduct themselves in respect of garbage and litter, keeping dogs on a leash, be respectful to wildlife and other park users.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to make a recommended motion?
Your worship, I'll make the motion. Council approves. You want me to read the whole thing? Reviewing Parks Bylaw 1440 in relation to quiet hours being adjusted to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Additional signage at the parking lot, installation of speed bump at entrance to Centennial Park, and consideration of installation of a time gate at the entrance of Centennial Park in 2023 budget.
Any discussion? Councillor Pates.
I do have one question about speed bump. Is that predominantly, is it for both ways to slow them down coming in and going out, or there isn't a stop sign leaving, is
Yes.
there? There is?
Yes.
Have we been able to issue any stop sign violations? We have.
Your worship, yeah, through the council base, yes, we have, but at times the speed on exit, which a speed hump would reduce, has prevented us from attaining some plates. The speed hump at the entrance would assist in us doing that.
I just have a personal aversion to speed bumps.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Councillor Barkley. I fully support a speed bump. And the reason being is you're slowed down anyways when you're coming into the park. There's people in that parking lot. There's children playing. So a speed bump, and I've lived in other places where speed bumps are quite effective. And so I would support the installation of the speed bump, and also around the gate. I support a gate, but there's also probably 100 meters, 150 meters on each side there that you could still get in. You'll have a gate, and then you've got between the trees, you've got quite an area there. So is there consideration around some landscaping such as boulders or whatever, and to keep?
Your worship, through to Councillor Harrison, the consideration would be to aesthetically make it similar to the barrier that's currently there, the 6x6 posts with the cable, which would prevent vehicles bypassing the gate.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Manager Leith. I'm curious about the time. So for about 5 months of the year, 4 months of the year, 10 o'clock would work. The rest of the year, it's dark at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. Like, why would we not say, would it be possible to have seasonal times on the park and say, when it's dark, like when daylight savings time goes away in the fall, we need you out of that parking lot. Quiet time comes into effect when it's dark. Like the behavior that we hear about, I mean, we experienced some of it when we were cleaning the park a couple of weeks ago. I just think there's no reason for anybody to be in that parking lot after dark.
Your worship, through to Councillor Wing, the opportunity when we revise the bylaw is there to make adjustments if you wanted to do dawn till dusks. That's an opportunity for us to turn around and look at it then. The park certainly for shift workers and other people, even in the winter, is sometimes used for dog walking and people going for a trail run or snowshoe still. Again, that's something we can look at when that bylaw is revised, and what is the preferred option for those times.
Okay, well, I'm going to be a pain, and I'm not going to support the motion because I want us to see it. I want to see us go further. I think with what's going on, I don't think speed bumps are going to stop the rubber in the parking lot. I don't think quiet hours are going to do anything. And we spoke about a gate previously, and we thought, no, we'll go this route, because I think if we don't put a gate on the park, and if we don't have a sign that says it is closed at 10 o'clock at night and it opens at 7 a.m. in the morning, then it's always going to be reactionary, and we're always going to be relying on people close to that park that are going to have to phone in problems at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning, and they don't deserve to have their lives interrupted. And so I would like to see us look at the price of a gate, a time gate, as well as closing that park. It's not unusual for parks to be closed, and overnight there's no reason, well, to be in the park at 2 o'clock in the morning. Be like I did when I was young, go to the river, right? What's that? I'll go to the river, yeah. Well, that's just my thoughts, but getting a lot of feedback about problems down there, and I think we need to put a stop to it.
Well, can I go, Your Worship?
Pardon?
Can I go?
Yes, you can go. For sure.
You mean, well, I guess if that's the case, we could table it, the motion itself, and have an idea what a cost for the gate would be before we make the formal motion, and then we come back and we address it that way. That's how I'm looking at it, because we can be, I wanted to debate the time, but it doesn't make any sense if we don't know what the costs are. So motion to table this motion and get a pricing on the gate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hystad. Is that all right, CO Becker? You're clear on that? And
Yeah, I believe the motion's clear with the understanding that administration will get budget numbers for council consideration immediately, not in 2023 budget.
yes. And I don't know how long that takes, but I'm even wondering, well, I guess we can table it for, like, would it be a couple of weeks? Do you think that you'd have a price or an idea?
Your worship, yeah, I've anticipated that that was a potential, so I'm just waiting on a quote right now. So it should be, I should have it within a week.
Okay,
To be fair, I'll pass that on to Director Kennedy, as it's going to be his budget.
So that could be potentially delivered to us next council meeting then, next Monday.
Perhaps, Mayor Berkeley. Yeah, well, yeah. If
Well,
not,
yeah, I'm just thinking with the issues that are going on, you know, where we need some immediate solutions. So even, I don't know how long it takes to get a sign that says this park is closed from A to B, but
Just, your worship, just to put some, a positive on this, I believe, is I know we've had no calls to service in the last 2 weeks since we did some positive joint force operations in the park area, and the kids were spoken to in no uncertain terms in relation to like their presence being there. That was by some of Chris's members on that particular night. The neighbours in that area, we are on speed dial, so to speak, in respect. We've asked them to actively report those things, and like at this point, we have seen some positive change, I believe.
yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. And I appreciate what you're saying, but at the same time, it concerns me that the residents are on speed dial. Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, I think the motion to table is for an extra week. It's not going to kill us. And then we'll have the full details of how we will want to look at this motion, and then as well as the times that I have concerns with. I think that some people are there at 6 a.m. walking their animals, and I think that we have to be considerate with, you know, planning this one out. I do want to say that the Sergeant Matichuk and Manager Leith, your work the last, I would say 4 weeks, 5-6 weeks with the park has been really excellent, and I commend that. Thanks for the update.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the table to table this. So all in favor? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. So we will move back to 6.1, request for decision with Director Vickers.
Thank you, Mayor Barker. So Alberta Municipalities, or AM Energy Program, was launched at the time that Alberta deregulated its electric utility industry to meet the needs of its members. The Energy Program is a member-owned program governed by an elected and appointed AM Board of Governors and is delivered through strategic partnerships within the industry. The AM membership participating in the program has benefited since the program's inception in 2001 through cost-effective supply of aggregate energy, natural gas, electricity, and optional green power. Alberta Municipalities is now offering Power Plus. Power Plus is the next evolution of the energy services structured to assist members in achieving cost savings and budget certainty. Now available for municipal and not-for-profit organizations' energy needs relating to the procurement of electricity that will start on January 1st, 2024. For over 20 years, AM has been procuring electricity for its members through a structured aggregation process. Over time, process improvements have been made and a customized customer care center has been established in Alberta. AM has heard from its members that they are looking for long-term budget stability and are aware of the energy industry's changes. In response, they have created a new offering, which is Power Plus. Power Plus offers the same reliability and cost savings achieved through a unique aggregation process, combined with the ability to lock in our rate for 10 years. This long-term solution allows access to energy pricing right from its source, avoiding costs incurred when dealing with intermediaries and mitigating long-term carbon cost increase. All Alberta municipalities energy offerings include a fully managed, transparent, and publicly procured aggregation process, the option to purchase from renewable energy sources to help meet environmental goals, customer care located in Alberta and dedicated to serving members, and access to advice and expertise offered to all members regardless of the size of the organization. So I did put our current rates that we have. So we were on a variable natural gas rate from February 1st to December 31st, 2021, which then we signed in and locked in through AM at a rate of 2.446 per gigajoule, which ends December 31st, 2026, sorry. And we had previously signed in with an electricity block beginning April 1st, 2021, and will end December 31st, 2023 at a rate of 5 cents or so per kilowatt hour. By locking into that rate, just in the last year from April 2021 to March 2022, we actually saved $115,000 in energy costs alone just by having that locked in rate. And I just did put a little picture. So all these pictures that are imprinted in here came directly from Alberta municipalities. So you can see where our rate is. That's our rate is the yellow line, sorry. And the blue line is what the market rate was at for each of those days. Now ours does move because we do buy blocks of energy. So at certain times of day or in the month, if we are over or under, we will go up or down. So the next picture on the screen is where Alberta municipalities estimates that electricity is going to go. So you can see since 2009, kind of the up and down. The two green lines are our two aggregation purchases that we were in before. So one in 2017 and the next one in 2020. The yellow line that they estimate is where we will be sitting at the Power Plus once they've gone through their procurement process. And they did add the two black lines that if we were not going to go through a 10-year procurement agreement, the two black lines is where they estimate we would be in 2, 4, or 5-year agreements. By allowing municipalities to access energy pricing right from its source. Did I already read this one? Okay. So Alberta municipalities is estimating that the town of Innisfail will save approximately $803,000 in electricity savings over the 10-year period. Now, this isn't necessarily a cost savings. This is a cost escalation savings. So it's not going to go down in price, but we're going to save that increase in price over the next 10 years. And they do estimate, as you can see, the dotted line is where they estimate the price will go all the way up to 2023. Now, because Alberta municipalities is doing the procurement process, we don't actually know what their rate is going to be. And we do have to sign right now, but we do know, however, that they will be not accepting any bids unless it's under 6.4. So right now we are paying 5.1, 5.2. So it will be going up. They do anticipate that it should be just under that $6 mark, but they don't know for sure yet. As well as there is a small program fee that is charged by AM to administer the program for us, which is, you can see there it's 0.00315 per kilowatt hour. So that does slightly increase our price a bit, but we are paying that same price right now in our current contract as well. So I am looking for council to authorize the execution of the Power Plus contract for the town of Innisfail and to participate in the Alberta Municipalities Power Plus for procurement of electricity starting on January 1st, 2024. And I would just like to note that the deadline has been extended to June 15th to sign up for this. So we have very few days to sign the contract and get in on this. So I'll take any questions that anyone may have.
Right, thank you. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion?
Mayor Barclay, I'll make the motion that council authorizes the execution of the Power Plus contract for the town of Innisfail to participate in the Alberta Municipalities Power Plus for the procurement of electricity starting January 1st, 2024.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I do. Certainly, the information that you provided, it looks like we certainly made the right decision by locking in the last time, and they've done a good job. I found a little puzzling on page 4 when they said they wouldn't accept any tenders if the price was not below. So that would mean that we don't get committed just by signing on to this, but they might not even be able to deliver a program if they don't accept anything. Like, we don't know where the market's going. Like, it could be that they might not even be successful in getting a bid.
That's correct. Mayor Barclay through to Councillor Bates. So one thing that I neglect to put in here is that they're actually going directly to the generators of electricity this time around rather than a supplier. So that should help save a few cents off of the rate as well. And they are going to do a pre-qualification process first and kind of let everyone know this is what our expectations are. And then after that, then they'll actually do a tender process based on the qualification. So I think we'll know with quite enough time if there's not any acceptable tenders that they receive to give us enough time to find another way. This does not start until 2024. So,
Right.
so we do have some time, but yes, we are not signed in officially when we sign the contract, but we are signing in and agreeing that we're going to go with whatever Alberta municipalities comes up with. So.
And when do they tell you when they think they'll know this? Like, was that like, will it be in the next 6 months to a year? Or?
I'm not exactly sure of the dates of when the tender would close, but I would anticipate that it would be this year that we would know something more final.
I support it. I just want to know how I can get in on it too. Thank you.
So Director Vickers, is there any risk things are changing fast and we sign up for something for 10 years and, maybe there's a vision that, more around community generation and how that may play into this? And
Mayor Barclay, so yes, so through this contract, we are going to buy a certain amount of energy or electricity for each day. If we are generating our own electricity through solar panels on this building, for example, we can take the energy that we bought through this program and resell it back to the market at market rate.
Okay.
So that could be good or bad depending on how the market goes, but we do anticipate that it's not going to go down, it will go up. So if we start generating more of our own electricity, then we can start selling some of the electricity back and maybe make a few dollars.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And I would just like to add, sorry, that this is only the electricity cost itself, nothing to do with any of the other fees or anything else that's attached to our bill. So those could still go up or down as the market goes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. And we will move on to 7.1, our request for decision on the Rec Aquatic Center with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. So just a quick update, I guess, an award recommendation for the general contractor for the recreation / aquatic center. So the request for proposal for the aquatic center was closed on May 13th, where we actually only had 2 contractors submit proposals. Proposal scoring was very similar to our architect, where it was based on a possibility of 550 points. After evaluation, the 4-stage evaluation, we did evaluate Shando's Construction with 462 points, and Clark Builders had 420 points.
We went through the same stage of evaluation where we did 4 stages, evaluating each proposal, and then did a interview of each proponent as well. All submissions were done very well. All firms were qualified to complete the project. Administration is recommending proceeding with Chandos as they did score the highest after all evaluations were completed. So we are looking at council to approve the award of the Recreation Aquatic Center general contractor contract to Chandos Construction Limited.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion?
I'll make it, Mayor Barkley. That council approves the award of the Recreation Aquatic Center general contractor contract to Chandos Construction Limited.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceros. Any discussion, questions? Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, I was just talking to our guest speaker outside. I think Chandos does the social procurement, right?
They do.
So that's kind of cool.
So does Clark.
So does Clark?
Yeah.
That's cool. Good stuff. Thanks.
Councillor Peets?
So now my question is, do any of our criteria, to your knowledge, have any component to them that might reflect social procurement?
We don't have anything written in our criteria for RFPs as of now. We did bring up in the interview, we had some questions in regards to what each proponent would provide in regards to that. So each one, like I said, each one is very qualified with social procurement and have some great ideas moving forward. So we look to engage in that further.
One, don't we typically get them telling us they're going to use local people and that sort of thing, at least? I know it's not totally social, but it's.
We encourage and they were able to provide with, with no detail though at this stage. So I think that's where probably our social procurement policy will get into that more detail of what you can provide. But we do anticipate that there will be some local social interacting with these guys, both of them and group 2 as well. I think we have an IBP team that's very active in the social side of things. So we're very encouraged on that.
All right, thank you. So all in favor of the motion? Okay, carried, thank you. And we'll move on to 7.2, Dodds Lake verbal update with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. So just thought I'd provide just a quick verbal update in regards to what we've done now at the Dodds Lake parking lot there. So we have provided some additional signage, some available parking signage along the street, as well as we've put an unloading loading zone sign out on there, as well as just to provide that we have had some enforcement involvement out there. So we've had some positive feedback in regards to that and some following of rules. We did look at on a high level just what it would take to formally, based on design standards, that parking lot and allow for turning movements of a large boat that would be suitable to launch there that we have seen. And it would really eliminate all parking to do that. So informal parking, I believe, has been working there. Last time I was out there, there was 8 vehicles, as well as somebody that was launching a boat. So everything seemed to be working quite well. Everyone was going. So that's like just a quick update on Dawes Lake.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question, Director Kennedy? I know in our correspondence, there's a letter from a resident with respect to the dock and using it for, launching boats and really not letting people fish off of it. Like, do you see that as an issue? Have you had any feedback or complaints about that at all? Or
I haven't received any complaints, not that I'm aware of, that in the front. We haven't heard any issues in regards to the boat or the launch, the dock itself and having multi-use on it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. We'll just have someone make a motion that we accept Director Kennedy's report as information.
I'd just like to make one more comment and then I'll make that motion. Just an observation. I don't know why, unless it's a function of catching the amount of fishing that's been going on in the last week has been very minuscule. The Pelicans are back. So with that, I'll make the motion that we accept that for information.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to 9.1, correspondence and information. So lots of information. So the correspondence I was referring to was from Mr. Jackson, this one. So it was good information to get. I didn't realize that Jackson had donated for that dock. Can you just keep scrolling, please? Okay. So the Equus Golf Tournament, if we want to enter a team in the Equus Golf Tournament, we would require a motion for that. It's 9 holes, team of 4.
I'll make that motion. That we put in a team for the August 4th Equus Golf Tournament.
Thank you, Councillor Hostad. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we have a letter here from Innisfail Pride. So I am going to make a motion that we proclaim June as Pride Month in Innisfail. Letter came in from Pride Committee people. Any discussion about that? All in favor?
Mayor Barkley, would your motion include, sorry, you voted, but would you apply the flag as we did last year?
Yes, is that in your hands with the flag policy or?
You can add it into your motion, the
Okay.
friendly suggested advice from the administration, but
Okay, I'll amend the motion then that we proclaim June as Pride Month in Innisfail, and we also fly the Pride flag the weekend of Pride. Is that, I think that's what we did last year.
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, and the cover letter. Do we need a meeting with Minister McIver anymore? To you can think about that. We don't need to decide that now, but just we can think about that going forward for September for the AM Fall Convention. Are we sending a thank you letter, CEO Becker, to Municipal Affairs? Yes, okay. Okay. And I also want to bring this next piece of correspondence up. I mentioned Minister McIver was at our Central Alberta Mayor's Group a couple of weeks ago, and he brought this up, the Local Authorities Election Act, some changes that they're looking at, as well as code of conduct. So I think last year, the year before, they were talking about removing the code of conduct requirement from the MGA, and there was a lot of backlash. And so they've decided to keep it in, but they would like some feedback as opposed to what our thoughts are. I know he's got some discussion items in the package here. And I know the one change he mentioned, the LEA was right now using electronic voting, that people cannot ask for a recount, I believe is what he said, but so they want to change that.
Mayor Barkley, from my understanding, and I'd have to go do a bit of research, is they can still ask for a recount, but it's the municipality's bylaw that identifies how that recount is handled, right? So our bylaw specifically states, because we use electronic, how they can ask for a bylaw or ask for a recount, sorry.
Okay. So I don't know, at some point, I don't know if we can do this when, but you know, we've got LGFF to discuss. We maybe have this to discuss, and whether we do that next Monday or
It's hard to say, Mayor Barkley, certainly we're starting to build the agenda. Yeah, it's something we just, yeah, it's there. And if you want us to come back to you with more information on this,
Okay.
it's there if council needs some more information, but it's there for your review.
Okay.
I'm not sure what more you need from administration on this item.
Yeah, I guess if we were to reply, would we reply as like council from Innisfail, right? So how,
Okay.
you know, when and how do we discuss this, or do we just sit back and not reply and then
Sure.
just let other municipalities decide? So that's kind of what I was getting at. And
How about Mayor Council, we target the next AMP, which is not next Monday, but it'd be within 2 weeks.
Yep.
We can help coordinate some conversation and help
Sure.
poll collectively council's thoughts on this item.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And I have an email from Patrick Gleason. I think everyone has seen. Parkland Regional Library. Don't think there was anything else. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Or if not, I'll have a motion to accept the correspondence as information, please.
Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. Thanks. And we'll do round table, starting with Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Since last meeting, I spent following or last week in Regina at the annual FCM conference, Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference. And rather than going into the detail of all the workshops and study groups that we attended, I'll just say that it was, this is my first FCM, and it was good. The content was good. There were some issues around logistics, but I think it's just the timing. They hadn't planned anything for the last 3 years. And with this first meeting coming out of COVID, I give them the benefit of the doubt. So with that, I brought back a whole bunch of material. I've also sent back a couple of emails from the conference to CAO Becker and Director Jenkins around some possible pilots here for Innisfail with Radon and that kind of thing. So if it's fine with CAO Becker, I'll distribute these materials that I have to the appropriate directors and to go from there. But I will reinforce again that I think it's a group that's very worthwhile. Great networking when we were there, and just hearing from the other municipalities across Canada. And I guess the issues are the same in Atlantic Canada, Quebec, Ontario, Western Canada, Alberta. They're all the same. It's housing is big. So we're not unique here. So, that'll be something and one of the priorities that the new executive will be working on over the next year. And as far as turnout at the convention, it was the best they've ever had. 1,100 actual delegates at the convention. And there was something like 800 municipalities on as virtual. So a good representation. And I'll let Councillor Hystad speak to sort of what our thoughts and comments around the actual annual general meeting when it comes to that, if that's okay, Councillor Hystad. Yep. So I thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. It was a quiet week for me last week. Got caught up in some readings and webinars that had been passed my way. The Future of Housing is a good podcast. I recommend that you listen to it if you haven't yet. And this week is just some socializing or representation at CAPE.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last Tuesday had the CSSC meeting. We had just one loan community grant application that we approved. We also had an update from Kane on the Canada Day celebration event and some things around that. And then yesterday I had the pleasure of running up Windsport with sorry, we walked up and ran down with Mayor Barkley, CAO Becker, Director Vickers, and Director Kennedy, and it was a wonderful day, and I'm really glad we did, and I look forward to next year. Thank you.
Councillor Wing.
Thank you. So I had a quiet week last week as well. I did meet with Tara Downs at the Public Library on May the 26th, just to debrief the Parkland Library Board meeting, and the minutes for that meeting are in our package that we just approved. So just had a good conversation with her, got some good thoughts around our relationship with Parkland. At that time, everyone was busy getting ready for the LLC's 10th anniversary celebrations, which was just 2 days ago. It was a busy weekend in Innisfail. However, that event was well attended and certainly supported by volunteers that included several past town councillors. So it's good to know that the library leaves a lasting mark on their volunteers. The upcoming week includes the Seniors Week celebrations, MPC, Chamber of Commerce, and session 2 of the Extended Producer Responsibility Workshop. Thanks.
Councillor Bates.
So just over a week ago, I did, because of a grandson, go to the Sticks lacrosse tournament, and that was huge. I mean, it was reported in the Mountain View News last night, I think, in their electronic version. The two arenas were as busy as I've ever seen them. I went to the Historical Village meeting last week and back up for Councillor Heisted. Of course, they were getting ready for the Queen's Jubilee Tea. Apparently the Men's Shed folks have been really helping them a lot with volunteering in their gardening. Jace from the skate park has reached out to them, and I think they're going to be a joint barbecue on June the 11th. And that was, I think, well received. They're trial stocking candy and other things that they might be selling to the skate park participants. And they are meeting with the events committee to talk about potential use of the village for a movie, I think on Canada Weekend. I did remind them that we will help them with the town voice on some of their events, because I don't think they used it for the Queen's Tea, but at any rate. Upcoming, I have MPC, Water Commission. I'm going to serve or do whatever I need to do at the seniors garden party, and yeah, next week is starts my partial vacation. Thank you.
Well, enjoy that, because it's been a long time coming. Councillor Heisted.
Thanks, your worship. I guess what I could say about FCM, it was a really good conference, a lot of good content. Don mentioned radon, that one piece, I think it would be really good for us to look into. I'll talk about the board election. Mike Yarjo was elected to the board. I think that was really good for Central Alberta and Alberta itself. Him and another councillor from, I think it was Sturgeon County was elected. Strathcona County was elected. So I just want to recognize him and his work with FCM. I think when we met with Mike and the mayors, I thought it was really impressive that he was being involved, because I can recall earlier on my career where we didn't send anybody, and then council started to send people. I think it's really important because of the issues are going across the country, and you get to meet different groups. And I want to thank Councillor Bates for sitting in for me for the village, and I heard the tea was a great event, so thank you.
I think we should also mention that Councillor Tanine Rudick is the FCM president from Bakerville.
Yes.
So great Alberta, great Alberta representation. So she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. I guess since we last met, I've had some one-on-ones with various people. I attended the high school grad on Friday. It was a packed house. Great to see such diversity coming out of the group of graduates. There was 92. It was the first time that Innisfail High School has partnered with Career High to do a joint graduation. So there was people from, going to be veterinarians to lawyers to nurses to teachers to heavy equipment operators, mechanics, tradespeople, welders, pipeline fitters. So it was a really fun afternoon to be there. Attended the Historical Village Queen's Platinum Jubilee on Saturday. I think it was pretty much sold out. Good event. Hearts of Harmony were the entertainment, and it was great to see everybody with their fascinators and fancy clothes on and everything. So that was a lot of fun. Dropped into the library and was very busy. And I think they had something like 170 people show up that afternoon for those events. So there's lots of fun stuff going on. Participated in the firefighter stair climb challenge yesterday, and everybody walked up, but everybody ran down except for one. Oh, no, two. Okay. I was just trying to point out CEO Becker with his ankle injury. But he still showed up. He still participated. So yeah. Give him an A+ for that. No, it was a fun day. So looking forward to next year. We've committed Director Vickers to all wearing the packs for next year. So we have a year to prepare. I'm just kidding. And I think it'll be back in the Calgary Tower next year. So it'll be actual stairs instead of a long winding road to the top. But this week have the seniors lunch and golf tour on Tuesday, then the garden party on Wednesday. I really encourage council to come to the garden party if you can. It's lots of fun. It's a great time to meet with people and have some laughs. I also got an invite for a CED working group on lunch on Thursday, and Cape mingling on Thursday evening, I guess, from 5 to 8 for elected officials, if anybody would like to go. And yeah, it's a busy time, but lots of fun. The town looks great, and people seem quite happy. So we will move on to upcoming events.
Your worship, I'll move that we go
Okay,
past
I was
6
just
o'clock.
looking at that. Thank you. Okay, all in favor. I was going to do events first and then do that, but that's good. Perfect. Thank you. And upcoming events.
Mayor Barkley, can I just get some clarification on this, the luncheon and golf course tour tomorrow? Like, what is our role? I've volunteered, but I really don't know where I'm supposed to be and what.
Could come to the golf course, and well, I'll let you, Director Jenkins. Yes.
I believe the volunteers are asked to be there at 11. And primarily you'll be driving people around the golf course on golf carts. Yes, and having lunch. But
Follow me. Okay, we'll have somebody please make a motion. We accept this as information. Thank you, Councillor Hystad. All in favor? CEO Becker?
I'm just going to put it over to Steve for the one engagement. We just want to make sure we're clarifying what it is, but the relevance of it. Steve, you want to speak on the Tuesday of the
Sure, the 21st, so it's actually in the 2 weeks, but yeah, on the June 21st, we did send out a request to hold the date. It is a review or an introduction to our IPD team, now that we have the architect and general contractor, as well as providing them with, you know, your guys's background, what you're understanding, the vision of the recreation aquatic center, as well as them introducing themselves, what they've heard, what they've read, kind of making sure we all get out on the right path right at the very start of the project. They are diving in hard. We had a meeting with them last week, and have already provided like a lot of detail of what they see and what they've read. So it would be a really great opportunity for us to get together and kind of just connect with council.
Okay, thank you. Sounds great.
Your worship, I'll just remind everyone that's another one that I'd love to go to, but I won't be there. And does that one conflict with? Does it conflict with MPC and the second half of the motion we made earlier?
It's worship's conflicts with MPC, but that'll be adjusted accordingly.
Okay. And I would assume that I probably should ask the MPC alternate to step in on that day if there is one. I don't even know if there is one.
Okay, thank you. And we will now have a motion to go in camera, please.
Motion. I'll make the motion to go on
Thank you,
camera.
Councillor Hystad. All in favor?